Hello and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better. I am Ben Hansen, joined by Janet Garcia.
Yo, what's good?
Basically everything. And then Kyle Hilliard.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. And then Kelsey Lewin, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I got the most excited introduction.
It's exciting to see you. Like, I like to surprise myself. Like, I hide the screen and reveal it one at a time on my panel. So then it's like, oh my gosh, special guest Kelsey Lewin, co-director of the Video Game History Foundation.
That book, I forgot.
Oh my gosh, what a thrill. But thanks for being here, Kelsey.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we have a lot to go through in this episode. We're talking Deathloop. Janet's played a ton. Some of us have played a bit. Then we'll be talking WarioWare, Tales of Arise. Janet, do you want to talk about Life is Strange: True Colors a little bit?
Yeah, just a little bit. I am one chapter in.
Okay, that seems fair. We can talk about it. Then back half of the show, Jeff will be joining us. We have some wonderful community questions. But Kelsey, since the last time you were on the show, we kind of changed things up a bit. So we're trying to take some of that love and fun from the community question segment and take like, what's it called? An eye drop, and just like take a little bit of that and sprinkle it to the front of the show by moving one question up for the community kickoff. So Kelsey, brace yourself.
You say this like I don't listen to the podcast every week.
You're too sweet.
I know you've been doing that.
Yeah, it's very sweet. Honestly, I was thinking of you the other week when we were talking about the Virtual Boy and Kyle's experience with the Virtual Boy. I'm like, oh, Kelsey's going to be listening to this and she's just going to be screaming into her phone about everything we're getting wrong because you're a connoisseur of handheld history.
There wasn't anything like all that wrong. It was just
good enough.
No, it was Kyle's surprise at how difficult Virtual Boy things were to find that threw me off a little bit. I was like, oh, people don't know this. Like, people don't know that you cannot find Jack Bros in the box. Like, I can name like 5 different people I know that are just looking for one to even exist on eBay because that's the last one they need.
That's absurd.
Wild. Yeah.
I guess it's...
Yeah, but I played it in Japanese a little bit, but it's a lot of text. It's like, it's a Shin Megami game. So it's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm just going to walk around and hope I'm doing stuff right.
I mean, I've never played Jack Bros, to be perfectly clear.
You're missing out.
Am I?
Yeah, you got to build up the hype.
I'm missing out on
I played it in Japanese. I don't know.
Yeah.
You got to hype it up so the people that are hunting it down can really feel like they're triumphant when finding it. Like, it has to be a huge deal. Like, this will make you happy for the rest of your life if you're able to find that copy of Jack Bros for the Virtual Boy, everybody. But
yeah,
okay.
If you want a complete Virtual Boy collection, because you guys were talking about that a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of games, but good luck finding them.
Yeah.
Do you think they'd be fun?
Monkey's Paw.
Would that be like a fun, I don't know, MinnMax series or something? Is just to try and get one full collection? Like, what's the easiest?
I've got the full WonderSwan set. You want to explore that?
That's amazing. But that was
Borrow
like
that for this segment. Just have it in my possession for like the duration of it.
You can come over. I'm not shipping it.
Okay. I mean, what do you think is the easiest set to collect if you want all of one console, Kelsey? What's like the cheapest, best way to go?
That's such a good question. It might still be Virtual Boy because
Really?
it's so few games, or like Vectrex or something. I mean, you have to go with something that doesn't have a lot of games.
Right.
So, I mean, it has to be, because like there's a bunch of games. I mean, NES is not a difficult, especially if you do unlicensed or not unlicensed ones. Like if you just go anything published by Nintendo, not a difficult set to complete, but it will be expensive because there's like 700 of them.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
You know,
it's a mess.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like
everything's hard. There's no such thing as an easy set to complete, I don't think.
What about like North American N64? Like, is that just the hack just to have it region specific? Because isn't that like 100 and something games?
No, it's is it like a few hundred? I think it's like 300.
Oh my god!
I might be I might be wrong about that number. And most of them are probably not going to be too bad. I guess if you can say like no Blockbuster exclusives or something, that'll get you a lot further, a lot faster.
That Clay Fighter 63 1/3 will really mess
exactly
you up.
That Sculptor's Cut.
Oh, is that what that's from? Because my someone in my household like really wants that game, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. Like trying to
just
find
get the regular version. There's a regular Clay Fighters 63 1/3, or whatever it's called. Just don't get the Sculptor's Cut one.
Yeah.
Did you ever end up finishing your mini collection, Kelsey, of all the M-rated DS games?
I did.
Ooh, That is good. That is a very specific niche. That's perfect. Those
are the kinds of collections that we are so off topic right now. I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
But those are the kinds of collections that I encourage people. Like, if you want to get into video game collecting, find like a small goal like that, because then you're going to feel so much more satisfied so much quicker. Like, if you say, I'm going to get every NES game, yeah, that's going to take forever. But if you're like, I'm going to get every M-rated DS game, or even every RPG or something like that. I mean, it'll be hard, but it won't be as hard as getting everything.
Yeah, I was thinking just the other day about like how weird it is on the DS that there are those Microsoft published games. Like, that'd be a fun collection to have, just like the Microsoft published games for the DS. Because what you got, Diddy Kong Racing DS. Am I nuts? That came out there, right? And then it's
that's Microsoft published?
I believe so, yeah, because they owned Rare at that point. And then it's like the Age of Mythology tactical game,
right?
The Age of Empires tactical game. It might just be those three. So I think I could gun for that. I could actually do it. Okay, so community kickoff. We got Mitch here as a great question saying, hello, cohorts. It's awesome to have you on, Kelsey. I'm a big fan of the Video Game History Hour podcast. Look at that.
Thank you.
Since we have a history preservationist on, I would like some advice. I have a large collection of old games from my childhood, mainly the GameCube, DS, PSP era, that are going for surprisingly high prices on eBay. I'm not sure I'll ever go back to play these. Do you think it's okay to sell your old game collections, or would I regret this forever? So we just kind of have to like go inside Mitch's head and figure out if he would feel the feeling of regret at any point in his life.
I mean, I can't tell you if you're not going to regret it, but the good news about games is that you can purchase them again. And if you sell all of them, you're going to get such an absurdly high amount of money that if 10 years from now you're like, you know what, I really wish I hadn't sold Pokemon Pearl.
Right.
You can go back and pick up Pokemon Pearl.
Honestly, Kelsey, that is such
I'm very practiced at this. I recently bought Golden Sun like maybe like a year or two after having sold it for a good price on eBay. And I was like, you know what? I want that back.
I think it's the way to go. Like,
but they also, games get remade so much lately. The really good ones will probably get remade anyway. So, there's always that.
I don't agree with that. They don't remake the weird games that were all... I mean, we still haven't gotten so many games from Nintendo that people have been asking for forever.
Yeah, you can never know what's going to happen.
We got Skyward Sword HD, yeah!
You're locked in.
Thank God
You're good
forbid.
to go. No, but I was thinking about this like last time I moved, because I have like a big bookshelf, and it's like, I like having a bookshelf in my house. It makes you look all smart and stuff, and it's, something for like visitors to come over and look at and think, oh, how smart. Basically, I'm just desperate to try and look smart. But then I realized, like, the odds of me going back and reading any of these old books from college, like textbooks and stuff like that, if I was really dying to reread some Richard Feynman or something, it's like I could just go out and spend the money to buy that one book, and it would be so much more worth the cost and hassle of hauling hundreds and hundreds of pounds of books to some new location. And so I think the same could be applied for games. But it's crazy that you brought up Pokemon Pearl, Kelsey, because this is like case in point, something that happened very recently for me, where when the remake was announced for Pokemon Pearl, I wanted to go back to my original game to figure out like who was my final team for that game. And then I remember there was like a crazy deal at Target years and years ago where if you traded in DS games, somehow they gave you $1 gazillion. And so I like got rid of... It was something weird with Target.
You sold your video games to Target?
I don't know how or why, but I remember Dan Reichert was screaming about this crazy Target deal. Somehow, for some reason, I got rid of all of my great DS games in that batch, and it just killed me to look at my shelf and not see Pokemon Pearl there. The one time I really wanted it, it's all out the window. So Mitch could be walking towards that road, really.
I think the best way to approach it is to first go through and be like, okay, these are the things I'm really never going to play again.
Right.
Like find the things that, and then maybe it's an entire system. Like this was several years ago, but I decided that, you know what, there are enough like Genesis game compilations that I think I can just get rid of my Genesis collection. I think I just don't need Sega Genesis games.
Yeah.
If there are definitely really good ones that I might want to go back and replay, but there's like 100 of those stupid Sega Genesis collections that they've all got like Golden Axe and Sonic and like, all the good stuff on it.
Right.
So I got rid of all of those, and I literally have not regretted it a single day. So start there.
Yes.
Is my suggestion.
Very smart. There we go, Mitch. There's your guidance. Okay, diving into Deathloop. Here was my personal experience with Deathloop, where I was looking forward to it fine. Went on a bike ride on was it Monday morning, I guess, and was listening to the Fire Escape podcast, dear friends of the show. And Mike Mahardy seemed like a little like, it's all right, it's okay, like on that podcast. And then I got back and looked at review scores, and it was like that Smash trailer where Donkey Kong's eyes bust through the glass window. Absurd review scores. I was blown away, and then my expectations are all out of whack. Kyle, it seems like you'd be into this trivia. Both GameSpot and IGN gave Deathloop a 10 out of 10. How many times has that happened in history, and can you name another game that they both gave a perfect 10 to?
Oh, that they both gave a perfect 10.
Here's a hint. There are 6 that overlap. See how many we can get here as a group, maybe.
The Breath of the Wild?
Breath of the Wild, yes. That's one of them.
Yeah. Is, what is it called? The platformer that I know IGN gave it a 10. It's a really challenging platformer.
Celeste?
From Celeste.
It is not
Celeste one of them.
Not Celeste. Nope. No.
Let's see. It's weird because GameSpot actually has like very few 10s in their history. I think they have like 10 to 20 10s in the entire history of the site, versus I think IGN has like way more, but also it's been around longer. So.
Right.
Persona 5 Royal.
Wow. Perfect pull, Janet. That's
Really?
amazing. Yes.
I'd be lurking. I'm like, yep, yeah.
That is the most surprising.
I missed that.
Yeah.
Completely.
It's wild.
Because I think, was it Michael that reviewed Royal for GameSpot? And I remember him tweeting like, I gave a 10 to, there's only been this many 10s in the history of time, and this is one of them. My review, you know? Oh, no shade. I would do the same thing. You know?
I feel like you can.
And then I'm like, that game's so acclaimed that I'm like, I'm sure because I think IGN might have even given a 10 to the just Persona 5 base. So,
right.
Royal, of course, is going to be a 10 because it's a better version of the already good game.
It is something that Janet, like I gave Breath of the Wild a 10 for Game Informer, and that is one of the things when I think about Game Informer, I'm like, I got to give that game a 10 there. Like, it's like it's a weird point of pride, you know? It's odd.
You put your stamp there. I think everybody else that reviewed a Zelda game at Game Informer also gave it a 10, so I don't know how special you are really for that outlet, but I understand it in theory, yeah. Let's see. Okay, this is a game from 2017 that's not Breath of the Wild that they both gave a 10 to.
God of War?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Or is God of War 2018?
It is 2018.
Yeah, God of War 2018.
This is maybe the most...
Mario Odyssey?
Mario Odyssey. Way to go. Let's see. Now we're going back in time. Which maybe that was a little hint if we're going way back in time, Kyle.
Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time. There we go. Janet, you're actually booted from the podcast for guessing Majora's Mask.
Well, I was thinking it has to do with time. You know.
You're right.
I saw the logic there.
It was there.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
There. Okay.
The moon was coming down. This stuff was changing. All right.
Yep. Okay. This is a game that Joe Juba mentioned on last week's episode of the podcast that he gave a perfect 10 to a Game
Heavy
Informer.
Rain. No, I'm just kidding.
Nope. God, I mean, those reviews were really, really high. That is certainly up there. Let's see.
BioShock
I remember everyone loved Heavy Rain. It is a very modern thing that people are going back and laughing at it.
Yeah. I don't know.
I
what
will readily admit that I played the hell out of Heavy Rain, and it's like, this feels like something new and interesting, and I really.
Can we do New
it.
Show Plus Heavy Rain?
Honestly, I do want to stream all of Heavy Rain because
I've never played it. I would like to play it.
Ooh, Janet, that is tempting. Oh, because I've played like the first couple hours maybe. Anyways, the rest of the games are GTA 4 and Metal Gear Solid 4, but that's not important. That's some review.
I said BioShock Infinite. It wasn't that. Huh?
Not that. Okay, let's actually get to Deathloop here. Kelsey, have you played any of Deathloop, or are you just curious about it?
Just curious about it.
Okay, perfect.
And I had a very similar thing as you, where the first thing I heard about Deathloop was kind of lukewarm, and then I saw the reviews.
Yeah, and then it is shocking. And now I feel like there's this crazy pressure built up in some ways for Deathloop here. But I've played 2.5 hours. Where are you at, Kyle?
Like an hour and a half.
Okay, great.
Like
and then
pretty
Janet, you're welcome to flex as hard as you want. What's your experience with Deathloop?
Yeah, I rolled credits, 22 hours for what is an 11-hour game.
Wow.
You know, get on the pro gamer hours out here.
Hey, I'm impressed. You're soaking it in. You're taking in the sights. All right, high level, Janet. What'd you think? How was it?
I thought it was incredible. I think it's my game of the year, even above Chicory, which I adore that game.
Yeah.
I kind of go back and forth between the two, but I do think I had way more fun with Deathloop. It's like one of those weird things where it's like, what's more special or more impactful for the year? But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, it is repetitive. Like that's the first question people ask. Like, oh, does it end up getting repetitive? You're on the same areas, same days and stuff. And it does, but to a benefit because you really get to know an area, and there's something that's really nice about that. I think it's really well designed. I think there's a lot of smart choices in terms of like how the abilities can complement each other and how the sort of there's like a, for those who don't know, there's like a buff system to it where you can put like little trinkets on your weapons or on your character, so you can have these sort of different attributes. It just feels really thoughtful, and I'm constantly impressed by how they're able to make it a game that you can comfortably go through and have fun with, while also being kind of complex in the sense that we don't know what order you're going to do the missions in. We don't really know what order you're going to get your abilities in. We don't, and there is like a funnily like a light, like in a way Metroidvania element to it, in the sense that like there at one point in a mission, you finally open up a door that was like always locked and you go to a new area, but it's just like a different place. It's not like anything crazier than that. But yeah, I mean, the TLDR is, I loved it. And it's super stylish, super fun. Yeah, I don't have enough good things to say about it.
Super profane, right? Like,
yes, but it feels
going for that world record.
It feels genuine. It is a little bit much. And I do think if you're someone who isn't used to profanity, it might be a little shocking,
or even like
especially because it comes out of the DualSense if you leave the settings at default. So you just start a day, and we're a no swear podcast, but Juliana's just like, "What's up?" You she just tears into you.
Even like the opening thing wild. You see is just like a brutal murder sequence and stuff. So yeah, look alive. And just a recap, forget what Deathloop is out there, which is, I don't know. What do you think, Kyle? 10% of people listening don't remember what Deathloop is. What do you think that number is realistically?
I think it's higher because they wouldn't shut up about it for the last year.
Okay, so maybe it'd be lower overall. But yeah, Deathloop, it's from Arcane Leon. It's the first-person game from the, I guess, last game this team released was Dishonored 2. But it is all about being stuck in a time loop on an island. And this is the weird thing about this game. After 2.5 hours, I'm impressed by it. And a lot of that comes from like still trying to wrap my mind around what I'm experiencing, which I think is a sign of something new, something fresh, which is a good sign for the industry overall. But even after 2.5 hours, I'm still just chewing on this meal being like, what is this exactly? Like, initially, it feels very much like, okay, this is a time loop game. That's right. I'm going to be waking up on this beach. And then for the first 2.5 hours or so, it doesn't really hit the loop thing in a big way. Because maybe I didn't die, and they give you like a certain perk in the beginning so that even if you die, you kind of get one free continue and stuff like that. But as I'm playing the opening section, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around like, what is the structure of this game? Because in the opening areas, at least, it feels very much like level to level, cool immersive sim experience, but not exactly like the more looping roguelike thing that it might have been imagined. But yeah, Kyle, like, where are you at just for trying to wrap your mind around this thing so far?
Yeah, I'm with you in that I don't have a handle on the loop yet, particular loop, if you will. I'm really like interested in the story out of the gate. Like, I guess I had I don't know. I didn't have any expectations for the story really, because I was like, okay, loop, you got to kill assassins, but pretty quickly the relationship between the two assassins and like what you're trying to do is like really interesting, and like there's this voice in your head that's sort of talking to you all the time. Like that part, I'm like, okay, I want to see what's next, but I do worry a little bit. Like I really want to play more, and Janet, like you talking about it makes me excited to see what's next. But like as someone who played and beat Dishonored 1 once, and Dishonored 2 didn't really click for me, and Prey didn't really click for me, I worry that I'm just not creative enough for Arcane games, because they're so like, look at all these paths, look at all these choices you can make, and I'm kind of like, can you tell me like which one's the best one, and I'll just like take that God. One. Like I worry that I'm just going to be too eager to just sneak up behind people and stab them in the back without.
No, you'll be okay. Because that's what I did.
Okay,
like
good. But it encourages you to try different things, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, we don't need to do that. Like I think there's like maybe 4 or more, like they're called like slabs. They're basically your like abilities, things like being invisible or like teleporting or, other.
Yeah, I got a double jump, which I was very excited about early on.
Yes,
I was like, give me that double jump right away.
Hell yeah. And that is different than the slab. That's a character trinket. So it's kind of like an attribute you can attach versus like your powers. But you get all these different ones, and I really only used invisibility for like 80% of the game. And then eventually I used one called Nexus, where you can kind of link enemies together so that, if I link, Ben and Kelsey up and I kill Ben, Kelsey also dies.
That's like a Dishonored thing. Okay.
Don't do that.
Dishonored, yeah.
Let her play her way, Kelsey, please. It's important.
Yeah, this is the only way people can understand. But yeah, so I wasn't really heavy on experimentation. I was very linear. Like, it was interesting talking to other people who had like beaten the game or had played more than me, because a lot of folks, they're like, so the way the game is structured, to Ben's point, I think the marketing was a little bit weird, because I did think it would be like a roguelike or something where I'm like, oh, I'm constantly dying, or like I thought I would have that constant stress that I did have in like Majora's Mask, where I'm like, okay, well, we only have this much time, and then I gotta, reset this or the mood. Like, there's not a pressure of time in this game at all, because you know exactly when time is changing, because time only moves forward when you go into the tunnel and you say like, I'm done with this area, and then you go to another area. So
there's not a timer at all?
No, there's no timer at all. It's just like, it's just the way time, it's like totally took me by surprise. The way time functions in this game and like how it plays a role in like the whole, well, how is it a loop? Well, in different points of the day, different things are sort of available, because your goal in the game, which this was in the marketing, so I don't think it's like a secret, you're trying to kill like all these visionaries who are like kind of the bosses. They're like normal enemies, though. They're not like super crazy powerful. And your goal is to, well, okay, I got to get it all to go down in one day, because after the end of each day cycle, the day like resets and I have to kind of do things all over again. So the goal of the game in the game is to line it up where you can get them into certain places so that you can have like the ultimate day where you kill them all in one day. And that's like very much explained to you how to do it. You don't have to, they describe this game as like a murder puzzler. And I'm like, bro, there's like 4 puzzles in this game. Like the puzzle is just doing the missions. And then you like, there is stuff to figure out, but you as the player don't have to figure it out. You just have to do what Arcane tells you to do. And there's like convenient map markers for everything. And like, that's not a detriment to the game. I think it's phenomenal still, but it's a lot more handholdy in that sense. So if you're worried that like, I'm not creative, or I don't want to do a roguelike, or I don't want to do, you don't really have to do all that. Like, I just followed the little mission chains on the menu and I took them piece by piece, while like people I knew were like, I'm going to get the most out of my day, so I'm going to spend today in this area, then I'm going to, in the afternoon, this thing's open, and then I'm going to get this weapon. I'm like, whoa. We got one chain of missions and then another one.
That's honestly encouraging. Like I'm glad it's like that. I want to be my hand held a little bit here. You know what I mean? Like, and it sounds like you can let go of that hand if you want, but I'm glad it's there. It makes me excited to play more for sure.
Okay, so once like you unlock Juliana, who's this other character in the game that you probably saw in the marketing, can be inhabited by somebody else online to try and kill you, and you can also play her invading other people's games if you want. But once you unlock her, like, I could conceivably in my next run, because I'm at the start of a new day now, I could conceivably take out all 8 of these goobers right now. I'm still trying to figure out, like, are you on this mission to mission path until eventually it's like, okay, now you've seen everything, be as efficient as you can, do the research, go for it. No. So the way it's set up, and like as you like get into the game and you see your menu with your like, they call them leads, or your like main missions. Yeah. The goal of each like quest line is related to one visionary. So like okay. I'm trying to think of what their names are. Like I'll say the doctor, because I don't remember what her name is. Dr. starts with a W. Sure. Like she has a quest line, and the goal of the end of her quest line is to figure out how to get her where she needs to be so that you can have that ultimate day at the end of the game. So you don't have to like do any of that figuring out yourself. You just complete her quest line, and at the end of it completed, it has a nice little check, like you know that it's done. And the goal is to get all of those quest lines checked. And then you'll have it set up where, again, I don't want to give specifics, but it'll be something like, okay, well, now I know I can get Dave and Ben at the gym in the morning. Great. I'm going to kill both of them in the morning. Now, how do I get Kyle, where Kelsey is for the afternoon? Because you have like X number of people to kill. So you need to be able to line them up in a way where you can take them all out morning, afternoon. There's like 4 segments of the day, so that you can go to each one without having to reset the day. Because for the entirety of the game, you're like resetting the day to like do other quest lines, and you're like, okay, well, I have to go back and check in with Dave, and he's only around at night, and it's already, or he's only around the morning, it's already night. I gotta manually reset the day so I can go in the morning, and that's essentially the structure of the game. I think it's really interesting, and I think it kind of shows even in the opening section of the game of just how much iteration had to go into the design of this game. I'm sure it was just a mess to stitch together, but they created something unique, so hats off to them. But it's just like, so Colt, the main character, he's seeing words around the environment, like diegetic words that are kind of popping up. Kyle's favorite thing of like, hey, just little reminders around the environment, stuff like that. It's like, okay, that's trying to guide you through the level. And then on top of that, even as you're trying to read those words on the environment, they have like other pop-up tips. Like, hopefully the hardcore Arcane fans don't think this is dumbed down Arcane or anything like that, but it definitely feels like they're doing everything they can to keep you moving and to not make you scared of an immersive sim game like some of Arcane's previous work. So it seems to be working for keeping me moving along, even if I'm confused about how am I holding these things in my hand? What am I going to lose when I die? All that fun stuff. But it's a lot of small tiddly bits that are going to come together. But what do you think it is, Janet? Like, what is the big picture thing that's like wowing the world with this game?
I think it's just the way that it really does give you a freedom in the style of how you approach combat and problem solving. I know I did say before that it is very handholdy, and I do stand by that, but just because you know exactly what you need to do and where you need to go, the rest is still up to you. Like whether or not, I think a lot of games, and I said this I was on the Gamescast review on Kind of Funny for this game, and I'd mentioned this there, and I'll mention this again here because I think it's really the biggest compliment I can give to the game. A lot of games are like, you can go in quiet or you can go in loud. Like That's most games. Like that's every game, Far Cry, every game. But for this one, it really does feel true on a much deeper level. And I think the dynamics within the tool set it gives you just makes for so much fun. Where someone like me who I can't aim. I'm constantly scared of I can do a lot of fun things like go really stealth. I can turn invisible and then I can shoot because you can't kill me because you can't see me. I can do things like, all right, I'm going to set up elaborate amounts of turrets and then I'm just going to get an enemy to come to the turret and I'm just going to hide in in a room, or I'm going to stand in the corner of a locker room and I'm just going to wait. I'm going to shotgun. I can kind of set up these like elaborate set pieces for myself versus someone who is maybe, I don't really want to say more skilled because I think that in itself is a skill, but someone who's more aggressive might say, okay, I'm actually going to kind of try to speed run this thing. I'm going to get the shift ability and I'm going to scale up the side of a mountain. I'm going to use that double jump that Kyle mentioned and I'm going to get into the window. I'm going to be in and out. You won't even see me because I'm not even going to spend the time like meticulously going through the sort of more direct route. I'm going to try to zag and just be in and out so quickly that no one knows I'm there, or I'm gonna just go really heavy with like killing everybody. Like there's just so many ways to do it, and I think that's where the fun is. And once you start to get to know the areas more, you can kind of just have a strategy going into like an area right away, which is really fun, where you're like, okay, I know there's like 4 trip mines on this side, and then I know if I go up this side there's gonna be 3 enemies. They're gonna have this conversation. One of them's gonna leave at this point of the conversation. When she says that's when I'm gonna sink the headshot. No one will know she's dead because she's already done talking. Like you can kind of, and I think there's like a really like powerful sort of beauty and knowing a game that intimately through design, because I've grown an attachment to games a lot from having done guides and having stared at the level design of Last of Us 2 and described it for someone on paper, and like that attachment has been really cool, but it comes in a really dry way of like doing guide writing. This is the first time in a not that setting that I feel like I know a game so intimately by design, and I think that's so cool. So yeah, for me that's the big draw.
Yeah, I mean it definitely will appeal to fans of Hitman. Playing this section so far, it's like, oh, Hitman fans are going to be in heaven this year. They get Hitman 3 and this thing. And so I know Leo has been playing it. Hopefully next week he can jump on when he's played a little bit more, because I'm very curious to see what the Hitman lover's perspective is on this thing overall. But I mean, we haven't even mentioned the vibe, the art. I mean, the style on this island is something else. It's got a whole 60s alternate history kind of vibe that is just so unique, and it makes me think of just the weird situation here where, if you weren't aware, this is a PlayStation 5 exclusive, also on PC, but console exclusive PlayStation 5, but it is an Arcane game, which means it is a Microsoft property at this point. So it's like Microsoft and Sony are both releasing this game in this weird, twisted kind of way. But I think it's so unique and so amazing to have this bold new take on an IP. And now it's one that was funded by Sony, partly funded by Sony, and now Microsoft kind of gets to reap the benefits of it, because as Deathloop moves forward, I would imagine it's going to be a Microsoft exclusive if they do continue with this franchise. And it reminds me of the same thing as like Outer Worlds, where Private Division took the big risk with Outer Worlds and funded that game. And then Microsoft swooped in. We're like, we got it from here. Thank you so much, Private Division. But I mean, it's just wild for Arcane Leon to take this big of a swing. And this is very specific and stupid and only the kind of crap that probably I care about. But I thought it was interesting that at the start of this game, bye, Kyle. Welcome back, Kyle. That at the start of this game, they call it an Arcane Leon game. And I believe, I went back and checked, every single Arcane game before this, they just say Arcane Studios. It's kind of a fun idea of them trying to like differentiate between Arcane Leon and Arcane Austin. I understand I probably care so much more about that than anybody else because I've been to both studios and so I'm passionate about that distinction and stuff. But from Microsoft's point of view, it's like, this is great because now we just get this high class, quality studio name that we get to use twice as much because there's two of them. So why not blast it out there? Kyle?
I have a question for you guys
about
yes. Deathloop, if that's okay.
Please.
Because I keep hearing, the only thing I keep hearing about really is, you mentioned the style and all of that. Obviously, people are talking about that.
Yeah.
But the core gameplay loop and how much the game helps you and kind of keeps everything in order. But no one is saying, is the actual gameplay fun? Does it feel good to shoot and run and jump and stuff? I haven't heard anyone say anything about that. And I'm curious.
Yeah, it feels great.
All right. I mean, to me, that's a huge part. That's a huge part of a game being worth playing to me. Is I can deal with a lot of frustration as long as it feels good. The movement feels good and intuitive.
And it's the action.
Have you played Dishonored or Prey? Because I find Dishonored. Okay, I find those games to feel heavy. It's a weird way to describe it, but you feel it's your gun moves a little slower than Call of Duty or something. So there is a learning period, I feel for me there was at least. But yeah, jumping around feels good, and I wouldn't worry about that element of it, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to embrace the action much more than Arcane's previous history where you're running around, sliding on the ground, double jumping. I mean, you can really, if you have an action mentality going into this game, I bet you can do some wild stuff, which I know has been true for so much in the past.
If is there a chaos system? There's not any of that stuff. You're just out here brutally murdering people. And I think it has the melee has a great feel to it where it sort of has, again, it leans into that super visceral kind of, it's weird because it's gory, but not really because it's all kind of almost cartoonified in a weird way.
Right.
So the blood comes out, but it's not I don't know, it's not like Last of Us 2 where you're seeing the animations of faces of people that you're, murdering. But this is you'll have a machete and a head will slice off, and then you'll hear I think the sound design goes a really long way and creating that feel for me where there's a lot of good crunch and yells, and it leans into that in a really fun way to me. So I have a really fun time playing it, and there's cute little things in the environment too, or the fact that you can kick people. I've been kicking people all the time, man. It's so good. And there's actually a buff you can put on your character where it's a 2-part buff, but one of them, the description is that you kick like a donkey. So you have a really powerful kick is what it means, and you'll just send people flying off, or I kicked a guy into a candy machine and all this candy fell out. Then I stepped on his skull. It just, if that kind of stuff sounds appealing to you and it's not quite as gross as I'm describing it, then yeah, it's going to be, it's fun in that, I think the combat is playful, Yeah.
And I know you're playing pre-release, but did the Juliana stuff impact you? Did you have anybody invade your game or anything like that?
I actually don't remember if any person invaded my game, because I did have it set to multiplayer for a while. I feel maybe because I did feel I changed the single player for the back end of the game, and I did feel a little drop. So I'm maybe that was a person. But yeah, for Juliana, my best recommendation, whether it's a person or a computer, when Juliana is on the hunt, just stand there. Don't go about your day. Wait for her to come to you and then just kill her, because she's going to find you anyway and then just ruin your because if you die completely, because you get those 2 kind of lives, because you have that one ability that gives you 2 lives. So it's a little bit generous with the whole oh, you die and you got to start over again. But it does suck if you end up dying and you lose your progress for whatever you were doing. So yeah, just wait for her, and then You'll probably be able, well, if it's a person, maybe it'd be harder to kill her, but yeah, that's my advice. Just wait for her to come to you. Don't go about doing your day.
Don't risk it.
Because or else she'll find you and maybe kill you when you're not even noticing. Just wait. she got to show up. She has to show up eventually. So just stand there and then kill her.
Amazing. Deathloop, game of the year for Janet. We'll see where everybody else is at. Once we play even more of it, we'll be talking about it more in the future. But I'm curious, if you've been playing it, what do you think about it? We had a Twitter poll just to try and figure out, is it too hyped up for people now with these review scores? But people seem to be enjoying it by and large. So yeah, I'd love your feedback on what you think about Deathloop so far, because there's a lot more to unpack here. Hey, Kyle Hilliard.
Yes, Ben.
There is a wonderful game that came out on Friday. Every couple of years, we're graced by truly one of gaming's greatest franchises. WarioWare Get It Together came out on Friday on the Nintendo Switch. Have you been playing it, man?
Yeah, I finished it in the sense that like you can see the story to the end. But
right.
It really encourages you to go back and replay stuff a lot. But yeah, my daughter and I predominantly like played the whole thing together. So.
See, you're getting it together. That's so sweet. And that's the big thing here is it has a co-op emphasis. And we've talked about it in the podcast before about being skeptical, at least I was, about that idea of having the characters directly controlled on the screen. So you're not like controlling the micro game. You're controlling a character on the screen, which will move in a different way, which then interacts with the micro game. But the benefit is then it's an easy way to play co-op. But has everybody been playing this thing actually?
I played a little bit.
Okay. Janet?
Yeah, I played it. I beat it. I played with my boyfriend.
I'm just in love with that idea because you had never played a WarioWare game before, right?
Yes, it was a wild experience, for sure.
Yeah, what'd you think?
I liked it a lot, actually. I was pleasantly surprised. I'll be honest, and I tweeted this out. I went into here expecting to take another Nintendo L. And y'all know I love Nintendo. This is no shade, but like, the games have not been hitting this year, man. I hit up that tennis. I hit up that Snap. It didn't do it for me. Like, and I just have this collection of like GameStop failures that I've purchased because I can never get code for Nintendo games. So I'm like, I keep buying and then I just trade them in, and we just do this cycle together at GameStop. So I went and I picked it up. Ended up actually buying it at Target because GameStop was sold out. I never like, do you have a pre-order? I'm like, no, and they're like, well, we don't got anything, and So I couldn't get it together in time for the game. But I picked it up. And when I first started, my first feeling of it was like, wow, this goes really fast. And I do not know what is happening.
Yep, that's
the exact chaos that it's supposed to throw you into.
That's how you're doing it right.
And then I sort of was like, well, you just sense it, And I do think something changes in your brain when you sit down and play this game where your brain like catches up, and now you can kind of see everything. And of course it helps when you like get to know the mini games too, because then you're like, okay, I'm like the armpit one, we're really good at this one, let's go.
Right.
But yeah, I beat it and I had a great time playing it. I do recommend this to people. I thought it was quite fun.
Yeah, I think the reviews have been a little bit lower than I was expecting. I really like it, and especially I think people are thrown off by the idea of having these characters on the screen and how it changes up the WarioWare formula and all that stuff. But it's like, they released WarioWare Gold on 3DS back in 2018. I understand a 3DS game in 2018 was poison to a lot of folks out there, but like that game was just repackaging all of the old stuff, and no one bought it and nobody cared about it. So like, you cannot get mad at Nintendo now for trying to shake things up and make things, I wouldn't even say more approachable, just a little bit different. It's basically turning WarioWare into like a hero shooter of having these different like characters pop in and interact with these games in a different way. But Kelsey, as the maestro of handhelds, what do you think about the new era of WarioWare here?
So, I mean, first of all, I think it's just better on a touchscreen. I think it just works better on a touchscreen. But I'm with you in that like it's totally fair for them to change it up. And I like the hero shooter comparison, but what I immediately thought of is like, well, why didn't they make them balanced? Like, they're all different, but some of them just objectively suck.
Penny
like some of them
is an abomination
minions.
Upon man. Like, Penny needs to be drowned in the ocean. Like, I hate
Which
that.
one's Penny?
The one with
how
like
does Penny work?
The fire hose where she like goes the opposite direction. Oh, I hate it.
No, that one's fine. It's 8-bit. 8-bit sucks on the skateboard.
9-bit, yeah, he's fast, but yeah.
9-bit, excuse me.
He is definitely one of the weaker
I like the
ones.
fire hose. I like Penny. Penny's fine.
Penny Defender.
But that's why it's fun. I like the unbalanced nature of it. Screw it. It's WarioWare. It's not a competitive game. It's just supposed to be ridiculous,
If any game can do this, can have like dumb bad characters in it for fun, it's WarioWare. Like I'm not mad about it, but
yeah.
I don't know. There's like it got a little frustrating and not, but because it happened so fast, it's not like a super Like, I'm not mad at being frustrated. I'm like, okay, whatever. 5 seconds later, I'm doing it over again. It doesn't matter.
Right. It's a fun level of randomization on top of just rapid fire micro games when you're like, okay, this character is going to be great at this micro game. This character it's technically doable, but it's going to be doable, but it's more of a struggle. And I think it becomes a lot more fun when you're playing co-op and then you have those moments of like, okay, this game's all you because you're so much better at this. Or like, this character, this is me because I can manage this thing more. And so a lot of it comes down to just understanding the micro games, understanding your characters, like getting your set of which characters you like to lock in here. Like Mike obviously is a ringer, the guy who can fly around and just shoot straight up. Anybody who's like fully predictable is all I'm really looking for.
Yeah.
In WarioWare Get It Together, because it's just mess. But yeah, let's see, who are the other good ones? What characters do y'all like?
Ashley. She's like a witch.
Ooh, you like the shooting the broom
good.
thing? Yeah. I actually
You just straight up Wario's fine.
yeah, he's great.
I did not like Wario. I never used that. Like he dropped off the roster real quick. We just left Wario. I'm like, it's your game, but not in our playthrough.
I also, what's the ninja's name? He's just a platformer guy. He just jumps really high. Like I like him too because it's just so familiar.
Yeah, Cricket was in the rotation. I like that they give you. I don't know if y'all saw this, but like they give you like a stat breakdown of like your win percentage like per character, and like
really?
I saw that early on, and Cricket was like doing real well. I was like, okay, you in the rotation based on mathematics alone.
Yeah, I'm actually, as much as I don't like playing as 9-Volt, 5-Volt, his mother, I do like a lot. Who just like, you have that little thing you control where she teleports to.
Oh no, I didn't like her either.
It's amazing because it
she
feels like
cannot those grapes, man. She cannot juice those grapes.
Look, she's not a grape juicer.
forever.
We know she's not a grape juicer, but you feel like you're breaking the game. Like as much as you're dragged down every once in a while by getting screwed over by your character in a micro game, like that ability to feel like you're breaking the game where it's like, okay, get out of this maze and get to the helicopter on the top. It's like, okay, I'm 5-Volt. I will aim at the helicopter and now I'm in it and flying away. I think it's worth it for that level of a twist. But obviously, yeah, it's like the story mode and going through that stuff. That's a couple hours. Then an unforgivable sin is you don't unlock the 4-player multiplayer and the multiplayer modes until after you beat the story mode, which is unforgivable.
The Wii game was like that too.
Yes.
I remember
There was a Wii game that was like that, and it was. I feel like it was longer than 2 hours too.
Totally.
That was annoying.
The Wii game was like a staple for me. Like we played that as much as we played Wii Sports. You know what I mean? And like I remember bringing it home day one and 3 friends. I was like, all right, let's play. This is going to be great. And then I was like, well, all right, I'll get back to you tomorrow. I got to beat the single player campaign. And it was so frustrating. And like the fun thing, one of the extra fun things for me, and Hanson and Kelsey, maybe you're in the same boat. Like I have played all the WarioWare games like extensively. I think DIY was the only one I didn't really dig into. And it's been a long time where I've seen a bunch of WarioWare games that I don't know what to do. And I really embraced that feeling because I was like, what is this now? What do I need to, oh, it's gone. All right, I guess I'll figure it out next time. Like I've played so much WarioWare in my life that like, and I've seen so many games come back over and over, which is fine. That's fun. But it's like, it was nice to be very confused again, you know?
Yeah, because they threw out pretty much every old Wario game. Like with 9-Volt, they have a lot of Nintendo stuff. So that's kind of like recycling a lot of that. But
like new flavors of the same old, you know, like different different things to pluck or whatever. Like there were still some similar things.
Yeah, I mean,
armpit hair instead of nose hair. Yeah.
I feel like it needs to be said. I feel like it's just everybody is so used to WarioWare and like, this is Nintendo just being weird, but we need to praise Nintendo being weird. Like this is genuinely, I think, one of the funniest games ever made. Like this game was annihilating. Maybe I just had too many beers or whatever while playing this game, but going through that story mode and seeing these stupid micro games just made me laugh like a maniac. And then it's just, if you actually pay attention to what's happening on the screen at any point, where it's just Wario screaming, random verbs on the screen, the most random art you've ever seen in your life, while like literal air horns are going off. It is just the most obnoxious game ever made, but I love it for it.
The art's really good. Like,
oh yeah,
I was really enamored by like how weird and sometimes kind of intentionally ugly it is. It's like if you. Some of them are like, okay, they're like, what if we took a kid's drawing, but then we imposed it on cardboard and then we added like a hyper-realistic background, like just really weird. It's like very bizarre collages. One thing that surprised me as like a newcomer, because maybe this is, y'all can let me know if this is like in every game, but the nods to other IPs I really enjoyed. And that took me by surprise, and it was fun being like, oh, what this is this game, and then you kind of have to use your knowledge a little bit of that game to like do the mini game too, and I thought that was super fun.
Yeah, like I was playing co-op with my girlfriend who doesn't really play a lot of games, and I convinced her to play with me because I'm like, it's 2D. She's like, okay, I guess I'll give it a try. And it was just like her face was melting. She's like, what the F is this game? Like, no, that's the point. You're supposed to be confused. But then the one that I really had a tough time with was like Splatoon, like the Splatoon micro game. We're like, okay, yeah, so you have to determine where there's more paint. It's referencing this other game called Splatoon. Just aim for the cat where there's more paint. She's like, okay, sure. All right, Wario, you got me. But there's that Kyle, the Breath of the Wild micro game. That's new, baby.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, the Splatoon is super fun to see Splatoon in there, you know?
Yeah, it's a good time. So I think it's going to be maybe a sleeper for this year, but I'm really enjoying WarioWare, and I want to keep playing those multiplayer modes because I'm surprised by how different they are. They have like basically Wario's equivalent of like Smash Brothers, where it's like randomizing through all the different hero characters, and then you're just trying to attack each other. There's a lot of really wild modes in there, like a lot of good Wario stuff. They pack in a lot of fun and creativity on the side, but I like it overall. Kelsey?
No, I like it a lot too. Yeah.
You think you'll keep playing it, Kelsey?
I do too.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it. I have not played multiplayer yet, so I'm missing a huge chunk of it.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I feel like any WarioWare game, like you should just have one of those at home if you ever have people over to play games.
100%.
You don't have to play it for more than 10 minutes, but like it's just a fun, weird one to melt people's brains.
Yes, but remember that you have to unlock multiplayer first. But yes, yeah. I am totally with you on that front for sure. Kyle, we love having you here, but we're going to speed up. You want to give us one big clap, dude?
Yeah.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye, Kyle. Jeff Marchiafava, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Hello.
Thank you for being here. You're here just in time to talk about a series that you have basically zero experience with, so I hope you're ready to go. Jeff, what is your experience with the Tales series, do you think?
I've heard the name a lot.
Okay.
I feel like.
I mean, I think that's
about it.
That is telling. Like, Tales has been one of those series that's been around forever, and some people have dabbled, but you got to give it up for them for sticking around for this long. But I did a Twitter poll. 36% of people following MinnMax on Twitter, at least, have played a Tales game in the past.
And they've all played Tales of Symphonia. I guarantee it is like 35 of that 36%. That's what they've played.
It was a very good game, to be fair, the Tales of Symphonia, but it just sold juggernauts.
It is the other breakout one. The Tales series is so fascinating to me because it's, first of all, it's huge in Japan.
Yeah.
Like it is almost Final Fantasy levels huge. They have Tales festivals, like fan festivals. They put out like all kinds of fan mangas and CDs and all this stuff like all year long. People love Tales over there. So it's a huge thing over there.
Yeah.
And here, I mean, they keep putting them out here, but it seems like it's just the same small group of people that are playing them year after year, which is why I'm so fascinated. The Tales of Arise seems to be another breakout one, like Symphonia.
Yeah, it's blown up. And I don't know if that's just like the development on Steam of people being more friendly to JRPGs on Steam or whatever. But yeah, so there's been 60,000 concurrent players of Tales of Arise on Steam. It feels like this is at another level, and it's paying off for them to really have poured a huge budget into this game. Like, it feels like it gives me a lot of the same vibes as Dragon Quest XI so far, which I really love Dragon Quest XI, but this even feels like Dragon Quest XI if it had twice the budget. It's kind of the basic vibe of this thing, but also JRPG as all hell. But yeah, what's your experience with Tales of Arise so far, Kelsey?
Oh, this one specifically,
yeah.
It is dark as hell, or it starts out dark as hell. How much have you played?
I'm on the first big boss, Lord Balsef, and I can't beat him.
Okay.
So that's probably 3 or 4 hours, something like that.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
Sure.
So this game, sometimes this is not the only Tales game that starts off really dark, but it starts off so freaking dark. It is like, I was taking some notes and I wrote down something in the intro where it's like, their only escape is death. I'm like, my God, for an anime game, this is starting out pretty dour here.
Yeah, because the whole premise of the world is that there's kind of, at least in the start, there are kind of two societies, the Denin and the Renin, and one people are slaves to the other people, and they're mining astral juices for the other society. And then you say, nay, no more. What if there were no slaves, Jeffem? And that's kind of where the game begins, at least. And then you're going around to different areas and kind of conquering one by one.
Do they really
So-
call it astral juices?
No, what do they call it, Kelsey? It's something.
Astral energy, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that. Some big.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, Mako reactor looking stuff. It's basically
So, I mean, compared to other Tales games, I think this one, its strength is that it picks up pretty fast. I've played nearly every Tales game that's come out in the US, all the way back to Tales of Phantasia, which was a Super Famicom game at first, came out on the Game Boy Advance here. And that game's crazy. That game has like voice acting in it. That's a Super Famicom game.
That's
with voice
wild.
acting. Yeah, it's great. So the reason to get into this game, if you like JRPGs and if you like action at all, like the action and the combat in these games is really fun. And for me, that's what's kept me going through even the bad ones, because some of them are not great. But the actual combat is fun, and they do something a little bit different with it every time. I heard this is the first one that is not multiplayer.
Yeah.
I haven't tried to play it multiplayer. This was news to me, actually.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I think I saw it. It was either in the MinnMax Discord or like on Patreon or something. Someone commented something like that. I was like, oh, it's not multiplayer? Normally, what's really cool about this series is you can have, your friend, your little brother, your girlfriend, whatever, in the room with you. And just when you enter battles, you can have them control another character and join in on the action with you. And that, I don't know, it's a fun series to get really good at because the combo system is really deep, but doesn't require you to be super, super good at it. Like, you can just kind of grind a little bit and be fine.
Yeah, and you kind of work your way up, and I'm still unlocking a lot more in this game. It seems like it just keeps layering one more thing onto the combat after another and everything like that. But I think it's in a weird spot too now, and not that this is why maybe this one's selling so well, but the combat does remind me of like a Final Fantasy VII Remake combat system in some ways. And I know that Tales obviously has been doing action combat since the beginning of time, but it's just weird that now that Final Fantasy has caught up to like action combat, now I wonder if some of that enthusiasm will like filter down and people will pick this up and be like, oh, it's kind of scratching more of that itch for a action-focused Final Fantasy combat. I hope people pick it up for that reason. I think it's really cool so far. And like, yeah, my experience is I played Tales of Destiny 1 and 2, and then Tales of Symphonia, and then like dabbled on like Berseria and stuff like that. But it's surprisingly nostalgic to go back to it. It's just little things like, oh, that's right, apple gels. That's the healing thing in the Tales universe.
Yeah.
It feels like
although
a comfort food.
they're different in this game because they're usually a percentage that they heal. Like apple gels heal 30% of your health, and now it's just like a flat amount. So they start becoming useless later in the game, which is more like most JRPGs, right? Where you have like a smaller potion at the beginning, and then later on those small potions are just completely useless to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this one picks up pretty fast. I feel like I cared about the characters and the world like probably only about 3 or 4 hours in, which is faster than most Tales games, to be perfectly honest. And it's a little clumsy in some areas. Like, I don't think this is going to be my favorite one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which is why it's very surprising to me that this is like the breakout one.
Well, yeah, I mean, we haven't mentioned yet, but yeah, the reviews have been surprisingly high so far. But yeah, we'll see.
I have to wonder if people like just haven't, like, these reviewers just haven't picked up a Tales game before, and it's more like the concept is super exciting and good to them rather than this being the best of the Tales games. So that's not a dig at all. Like,
yeah.
It's just, I'm surprised it's getting such high reviews because it's just solid to me.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. I mean, maybe a lot of it is also the budget. Like, it's just fun to see like big production values for a Tales game and to see them go all out in this way compared to some previous installments. That could be a big factor.
Yeah, I think that's true. I do feel like they put more into this than normal. But I mean, so I'm like 22 or 23 hours in. I am at what would be like the final sort of area on the Danon planet, whatever you want to call it. But I feel like it's very clearly setting up that's there's no way this game is 30 hours long. It's going to be much longer than that. So, but I feel like I could feel that from the beginning area. It's like, okay, it's setting up these 5 places, and that's clearly not all you're going to do.
Yeah, so it's a 35 to 50 hours, according to How Long to Beat. And Jeffem, I know you're sick of JRPG tropes, but here's a twist for you. So it kind of starts out with kind of like this odd couple, a guy and a girl, and they don't really get along in the beginning. We'll see where it evolves and stuff like this. And the guy has amnesia, which we've seen a million times. But hear me out. He has amnesia, so he doesn't remember if he's ever interacted with this woman before. But you gotta have it be equal. So they don't have the woman also have amnesia. The way they get around it is the guy in the beginning has an iron mask on that he can't take off. So the woman is not able to figure out if she recognizes the guy either. And Kelsey, I don't want any spoilers. I'm not looking at that.
I'm not
even looking at your face. But I love that setup of like the perfect thing of these two characters and be like, do we know each other? I don't know. Because of just the absurdity of JRPGs, now there's no way of knowing whether or not we know each other.
It's impossible for us to know.
Yeah, it's very absurd.
The Tales games are full of anime tropes, like and JRPG tropes. I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat that at all. Like that has to be something, if you want to get into these games, it has to be something you can at least tolerate.
Yes.
Because it's there. It's plenty there. There's always like, there's someone who's super obsessed with food, and it's the person you wouldn't expect to be super obsessed with food because she's really thin and tiny and everything. And
comedy.
Those kind of things. And the two people who don't really like each other that much, but you can tell maybe they actually do. I mean, it's cheesy. It's very cheesy.
But honestly, I'm a man of simple pleasures, Kelsey, and what makes me happy is games and RPGs where people yell the name of moves a lot, and that is all the series is about, is people yelling the name of the moves they're doing. And the other thing that makes me really happy, and it's very rare to get into this situation, but going into an RPG not knowing who the team members are. Like, I haven't been following preview coverage that well, so it's so fun jumping into a game like this and genuinely having no idea who's going to join my team, who's going to drop out. I think it's like a very unique thing that you can only get with certain RPGs that come out of the blue a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, every Tales game, it's like a Final Fantasy game where it's just like, you have the same sort of like, the names of the items are the same.
Right.
And you'll have some of the same moves, but the people and the worlds are always completely different, have no relation to one another. So every time is just completely starting over. You don't have to have played a single other Tales game before this to get... there's nothing you're missing, like literally nothing you're missing as far as I can tell so far, if you've never played one before.
Yeah. Kelsey, as a fan of Tales and a fan of birds, I think you have 17 birds flying around your apartment or something. What was your take on the owls in this game? I'm trying to remember if that's a thing from the past, but it is jarring in this game. There's like owls that show collectibles, but they don't have like owl sound effects. It just literally sounds like somebody talking into a microphone like this going, hoo hoo, hoo hoo.
I think it's hilarious. I think it is. So, okay, no, the owls are new.
Okay.
There's always like a dumb mascot character in every Tales game, and it's usually cats that are like a thing that you find around, and it's like cats with a Z. But the owl thing, yeah, it's exactly what Ben was saying.
It's like, obnoxious.
It's multiple different voice actors. Like, it's not the first time I heard it, I was just like, wow, they got a really bad voice actor for the owl sound effect. But then the next one I found, rather than being like hoo, it was like hoo.
I think your first problem when you're making sounds for an owl is when you hire a voice actor instead of just getting the sound of an owl to put in there.
Well, by the second one, I felt like it was clearly on purpose. Like, this is supposed to be really stupid. And because of that, it made me laugh. If it was not supposed to be stupid, if that was supposed to be serious, then, oh boy.
Yeah, the Tales series has
really
got a big problem.
Effects.
But yeah, I'm gonna keep playing it. I think I'm good for one big JRPG a year, and I'm feeling really good about this one so far.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying my time.
Are you liking the combat?
I am, except, yeah, I'm getting my ass kicked by that first boss. And if you have any hints for me, I'd appreciate it.
You do have to learn a little bit about, like, you can't just button mash. You do have to learn a little bit about the way the combos work and the boost break thing that's going on in this game.
Okay.
You have the ability to knock him down with that D-pad up or whatever thing.
Yep.
You have, after you've done a combo of a certain percentage, you unlock that. Take advantage of those moments and try to, like, take a breath and time your dodges so you can get those counters as well.
That's good advice. Yeah, I think also I need just to go back and train and grind and do some more side quests and stuff because I kind of beelined it towards them and I think I'm just underpowered overall.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a strange thing about the Tales series, at least modern ones, that I actually want to hear everyone's opinions on because I think it's kind of a contentious one.
Yeah.
Bandai Namco offers DLC that is just a couple dollars. That is, they're like packs of, level up 5 levels and here's some nice items for you, or, bunch of really good armor and maybe 10 levels up. And there's a bunch of different ones. I think there's probably like 10 or 12 different combinations of, kind of cheese the game a little bit stuff. But this is not a competitive game. This is no longer even a multiplayer game. It is a single player game. So I want to hear, what are your thoughts on that?
I guess it'd be nicer if they had that and have it be free. Like, that'd be like the kindest option. Because then it's like, okay, people who want to play this way and sort of, cheat, which I don't think cheating is like a bad thing when it's not, again, competitive. Like,
right.
You want to cheat in like plenty of games where you jump over like through walls and stuff. Like, who cares? This is not real life. I think it's important to remember. But the paid part, a little bit like less, I guess, for the player. Because you're kind of, I guess you're like, I'm doing you a favor. The exchange is the money. Like, I'm not mad at them charging for it. And ultimately, I think I'd rather have that as an option than not. Because I feel like if I look at that as a player and I'm like, man, I don't want to pay for this. Like, I'm just paying to get my way out of like grinding through the thing. Like, I'm not going to do that. Okay, then I'll save my $2 and put in 10 hours. Or I can like exchange the two. I like the option to at least exchange them. And I think it'd be, even though I think it'd be, a lot of people would get upset about it. So I think a lot of games, that's why they don't offer that, because people see it as like cheap or something, or them being petty, or them like, oh, you didn't design it balanced enough, so now I have to buy my way out of the problem you created. In a way, I kind of wish more games offered that, just because for me, as someone that doesn't play a lot of JRPGs, one of the big deterrents is just how much time it takes. I'm like, I gotta live in here. Like, what am I gonna do? Quit my job? Like, so I like having at least a way to kind of expedite that, even if you have to pay.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it, Kelsey. And this is a very specific case, but like, I got a code for this game. And so it was like the premium edition or whatever the hell it was. So it was a matter of like going in like, okay, there's some downloadable things. What is this? And it's like, oh, here's
so they're free for you.
Yeah. So it's just like, hey, here's 500,000 gold. I'm like, what? Like, you're just handing me all of this stuff optionally. Here's a bunch of costumes you can get, which shows the main character's face. I'm like, damn it, I didn't want to see that before I got to that point in the story, which I'd imagine was coming up. So
he is on the cover with his face.
Oh, is that right?
So,
I'm going in that blind. I didn't even see the cover. This is just straight digital. But yeah, it kind of grosses me out. But I guess if you want to pay it, go for it. I don't know, Jeff. Let me think the community should be up in arms over this.
I guess I agree that it's a little gross. I think the problem for me is that it offers this temptation to the developer to try and make more money out of it by screwing up the balance of the game.
Yes.
And I'm not going to judge my opinion on that based on Hansen not being able to pass the first boss.
Smart.
Because that happens all the time.
Yeah.
But if the overall impression was, hey, this game's way too hard, or you have to do way too much grinding in order to keep up with it, then that kind of rubs me the wrong way. If it's sensible and decent throughout, that like you could normally do it, but it's just added as an option if you want to kind of fast track your way through it, then it doesn't bother me as much. But I think that's, as soon as the developer adds that option, I feel like there's just this ultimate temptation of like, well, if we crank it up a little bit, we could make more money from it. And that's where
I mean, that was the Assassin's Creed Odyssey debacle, right? Like, they had that DLC right at the beginning that kind of boosted you through that area. I think it was Odyssey that had that, and it was, it's tough to trust people with that.
And this one does feel a little bit steeper in terms of level progression of enemies than I think it. I mean, it's been a little while since the last one I played, so my memory is not perfect, but it felt a little steep to me. Like, I would just hit level 20 and I'd be finding only level 23 enemies, and I'm like, I feel like at this point I should be the same level as the enemies,
right?
So it's a little steep, but yeah, I agree with all of these points. It's like, I like that the option is there, but at the same time, if it's at all tempting, then that might say something about the developer rather than If it's not tempting otherwise, like if you're just playing through normally, then and it's fine, and you never really run into any huge snags, then I think it's fine.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to say about this game, and I think this is true of a lot of JRPGs, but because we're kind of going through these areas in such a fast clip, that's a good and a bad thing for me, because I care about the story a lot faster and I care about these people a lot faster, but the tragedies don't hit as hard because I haven't had as much time to get to know them.
Right. Yeah, this idea of speeding up a JRPG story a little bit. Yeah, I guess I can see that compared to some old RPGs where you just feel like you're living in this area, living in this town for hours and hours and hours and hours. Yeah. Okay, so the drama isn't hitting. It's interesting. I mean, I've heard nothing but glowing praise for this, so it's nice to hear a hardcore Tales fan be like, slow your roll a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah, it's very good. I'm not like, this is not to say don't play it at all, because I think, especially if this is your first Tales game, I think you're gonna have a great time.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite one. And so it being the breakout one, but I mean, to be fair, Symphonia wasn't my favorite one either, and that is another breakout one, so. And
your favorite is?
Abyss or Vesperia, probably. Those are the two contenders. And Vesperia is out on Switch, PS4, I think Xbox as well. They did like a definitive version. It was a 360 game here.
That's right.
And a PS3 game in Japan, because they don't play Xbox in Japan. But they did like the definitive edition, which comes with all of that DLC for free, all of that level up 5 levels.
That sounds great. That's good gaming.
Sweet.
Yeah, but yeah, this game isn't on Switch, but it's on everything else if you want to check it out. So, Tales of Arise, everybody. I'm looking forward to continue playing it. Real quick, Janet, this Life is Strange saga. All episodes of Life is Strange True Colors are out now, but based on the first episode, how are you feeling about it?
I like it, and I'm excited to continue. This is I feel like this is the era of like review hype, where it's like, what does this mean for me as a player or a fan of this franchise or the studio?
Right.
I have a complicated relationship with Life is Strange because I love story games, and I did like the first game, even though I think the writing can be very cringy.
Oh yeah.
I liked the second game a good amount, but I didn't finish it. Loved Captain Spirit as an in-between. Hated Before the Storm, which was a Deck 9 game. And this is also a Deck 9 game. So I was like, Deck 9, I don't know. Like, I was ready. I was like, I'm scared. I'll be honest, I don't trust you. I just don't. I didn't like your game last time.
Yeah.
So far, this has been cool. Like, it's also, I just want to say it's like, I think the best looking Life is Strange game, which I know people don't really like come to it for the graphics. But, it is nice being in like, a cozy, cute, quaint little town, and I think this just like looks so much better than the other games have looked. So that was the first thing that stuck out to me. And I think the writing so far, it hasn't really ran into any like teen cringe. I think that might help that it seems like the main character, Alex, might be like a little bit on the older side, like more in like the early 20s than like 17 or something. Like she's an adult and like her brother has a job and she's like existing as an adult in the world. I also think that some people have spoken about Deck 9 versus Don't Nod in terms of their like background as studios. Like Deck 9 is either in Colorado or somewhere similar, so they
they're in Colorado,
maybe can speak more to like American writing than like people always talked about like Don't Nod, like French writing like for teen American girls. Like it never really landed. So so far I'm cautiously optimistic on this one. Everyone I know loves it, so I'm like kind of trusting those people to carry it through. My biggest criticism so far is I'm not feeling like the drama of it. Like, I guess kind of similar to the Tales comment. Like I want to be excited and intrigued, and nothing really is intriguing me yet. It's just like, well, the world's pretty and the writing is solid, and like, it's still fun to walk around and like, hit select and be like, gotta do those dishes, and then, go down to the bar and like have those elements. But I'm excited for like the more drama bits to unfold, like what's really going to get compelling. I think the power's okay so far. Nothing crazy. Like the empathy thing isn't as cheesy as I was worried it would be, but I'm not really seeing how it's going to play out in an intriguing way yet.
Right.
I'm playing with my brother and he's more into it than I am at this point. But I think it's a good game and I'm excited to see through the rest of the episodes.
Yeah, I feel like you flew by that concept of, the superpower in this time around is empathy, which it seems like is just kind of like looking at faces and understanding when people are sad.
So what it's like so to explain further, it's like an aura thing. So
Okay.
like it's not just when someone has a heightened emotion, like it's empathy basically, but it's like a way more extreme version. So it'd be like if, you know, Ben was really scared, I could see his aura of fear and I could kind of hear his thoughts and almost experience the fear like directly in a way that impacts me. So, you know, like it impacts my emotions directly. So then there's maybe going to be, I'm guessing, ways in which, okay, I have to now interact with Ben in a way. I got to calm him down because I got to calm myself down by calming him down. So that's why I kind of describe it as like the power of empathy. But yeah, that is how it functions in the game, where you can kind of see what people are thinking. If they're really extreme.
It doesn't sound. I like the first Life is Strange. I played through that one. But when you think of like, you know, fantasies about superpowers, the idea of the empathy thing, especially in a video game, it's like, all right, I like it. We're in a new era of games where this is a possibility, but I don't know if that makes it more fun. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts when if you get a chance to continue playing this thing, Janet. Mm-hmm. All right, that was Life is Strange, True Colors, everybody. Hey, Jeff, do you know how this whole thing operates?
Astral Juice.
Astral Juice primarily, which can be found at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. If you like this show, you can support it or join it over on Patreon. We'd love to have you. And thanks to wonderful supporters like Fatal X Blade on YouTube. They say, Lucas, a fellow patron, wants you to check out his YouTube channel, Fatal X Blade. Let me pop it up on the screen. That's Fatal X Blade with 2 spaces. His YouTube channel is primarily focused on highly edited reviews on the newest games. Each review features a short parody at the beginning of the video. He just uploaded a review for Life is Strange True Colors. Oh my God, and he wants some feedback. So head on over to Fatal X Blade on YouTube and subscribe and drop him a comment. Thanks so much to Lucas for supporting MinnMax in a big way, and yeah, congratulations on leaning into your own YouTube channel in a big way here. I think that's really exciting. So go leave a comment for his Life is Strange True Colors review, because I bet he has played all chapters. So that was just a tease from Janet. Then this is for the full experience. Thanks to Fatal X Blade. We appreciate it. Also, thank you to Fixture Gaming. They want you to know about the Fixture S1, which is a mount that you put on your Switch Pro controller and then put the actual Switch screen on top of that so you can play with the best controller for the Nintendo Switch anywhere in the world. It's very convenient. You can check out their site. There's a link below if you want a direct link to check that out. It's $35 for the Switch Fixture S1. Also, you can get the carrying case. There's also a bundle if you're interested in that. And, Jeffum, you can use the promo code MinnMax. 2 N's, promo code MinnMax for $5 off if you buy it from Fixture Gaming's website. But that's not all, because we are doing a giveaway every single week throughout the month, thanks to the fine folks at Fixture Gaming. So if you would like to win a custom MinnMax Fixture S1 for free, you can. We had a giveaway this last week on Twitter, and Josh Lobes from South Dakota won a free Fixture S1. And so this week, it is going to be on Instagram. So follow MinnMax on Instagram. It's MinnMax Show on Instagram. We have updates each and every day. Every morning, I do an obnoxious video talking about what we're working on. Then we also have updates after that. We have Brian Vore running the Instagram channel now, so that's very exciting. So anyways, follow us on Instagram, and there will be a giveaway coming up very soon. And I don't want to tell anybody what to do, but we have more Twitter followers by a large amount than we do Instagram followers. So your chances of winning are much, much higher if you want to Fixture S1. If you go over to Instagram, give us a follow. So we'd appreciate it. Also, thanks to IM8bit, our dear friends at IM8bit. They want everybody to know about Mutazione, the double vinyl soundtrack. It's for the adventure game that came out a while ago. It's available on Steam and other places, but is a double album with music by Alessandro Caranas and album art by Nils Deniken. It's mastered for vinyl by Townsend Mastering. So check that out. And you can go to IM8bit's wonderful online store. Anything in that store under $100 you can get for 10% off by using the promo code WAKEMEUP, which I was recently told is a music reference. I thought it was like an Evanescence reference. I think it's something else they're going for in September here, Kelsey.
I thought, okay. I definitely thought it was the Evanescence one.
I know.
I was like, Evanescence is music. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you're either a Green Day person or an Evanescence person. There's nothing in between.
You can be both.
You can be
it's
both.
Just not the first one I thought of.
That's right. When it comes to me for Wake Me Up, I am 8-bit person. The point is just go to their online store and use the promo code WakeMeUp, no space, for 10% off. We'd appreciate it because each and every week they're very generous. They ship out a wonderful prize from their online store to a member of the MinnMax community. Anybody who supports us at any tier over on Patreon can submit a question each and every week for the MinnMax Show podcast. They help support independent games media at the same time. And then they have the chance of winning this prize. And this week it's a very good one. This is the Cuphead CD set. Songs and Sketches. It's the Cuphead CD from I Am 8-Bit import from Japan, and it has exclusive Cuphead tracks on it. So I Am 8-Bit will ship that out to whoever has the best question of the week. So Kelsey, I know you're a listener. Thank you for listening, but this is your responsibility now to remember each and every question, including even Mitch's at the start of the show. Community kickoff does not mean they're disqualified, so he's in the running as well.
Okay,
here we go. Chris Prohaska writes in and says, hello, MinnMax. If you had to integrate any video game protagonist outfit into your wardrobe, whose would it be? And yes, you have to wear it out in public at least once a month. This is tough.
Does it
have to be a protagonist? Like, it can't just be...
Forget the protagonist. I think any video game character. Yeah.
Oh, we're cheating already. I see how it goes.
Yeah, but Janet, did you say Artful Escape?
Yeah, I beat that game. I wasn't that, hot on it as we had talked about in a previous episode, but they have, it's very light spoilers because it's in their own marketing. It's one of those things, you know how it goes, where you get to like mid-game and you can kind of customize what Francis looks like. And the clothes are like my perfect brand of over-the-top, gaudy, kind of ugly, but kind of cool, like blue jackets with feathers everywhere. Like, I just really want to desperately be Emily Hayes, and I'm not, like, from Metric. But yeah, that's my dream. Like, I would love to have items in that closet. And I swear to God, one of the jackets in that game, I'm like, I have this kind of ugly, gaudy jacket. And yeah, I would love that closet.
You seem like, Janet, I mean this sincerely, you seem kind of like a cool person. Like, I feel like you could wear some obnoxious clothes and get away with it. Do you feel like you could do that? Or would you be self-conscious wearing, like, some Artful Escape style stuff on the sidewalk?
Oh, no, I love wearing, like, kind of over the top stuff. Like, I have like a lot of my jackets are kind of over the top. Like, I have that green camo one that has like studs on the arms and like bedazzled bees. Like, I don't know what that is, but I saw it at H&M and I loved it and I like rock it all the time. And a lot of the clothes there were like very much my style. Like, they had basically like, okay, these aren't Doc Martens because you'd get sued, but they're Doc Martens. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'd love that closet.
Yeah. Jeffem is wearing his most gaudy t-shirt today for the podcast.
Pretty much.
I don't know, Kelsey, yeah, were you thinking of a certain video game character?
Well, I feel like, I mean, this is kind of to Janet's point. I feel like there's a lot of really good Pokemon gym leaders that fall into this.
Good.
The one I was thinking of, what's her name from Black and White? Is it Elsa? Elisa. That's her name. She's the like electric one who has the crazy. I guess you'll just have to look her up. But she's got
Good God.
Like. What?
It's like she's wearing.
She's like a bee.
Yeah,
right?
She's like a bee, but with like cool. She's got like jacks coming out of her helmet hair thing. Like it's cool. It's over the top stuff, but
so you're saying you could wear this in public once, where it's like a bikini and then like giant inflated marshmallow arms. What is this?
Oh, you're looking at the Black and White 2 one.
Oh, maybe that's the top of the Google image thing.
Okay, she has 2 outfits, and I forget which one is which, but her other one's just like a dress with some yellow high heels that are really killer. I'm not saying I'm confident enough to pull it up, but there's some good over the top stuff, and I just feel like that's if you're a Pokemon gym leader, like that's what you should be doing. Like the ones who dress boring, I don't think that's acceptable. I think that if you're a Pokemon gym leader, you need to take it way over the top.
The Met Gala of video games.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. You need to look half like a Pokemon yourself. Like, you need to blur that line and confuse people because you just got so much style. Whereas, Jeff, I think we're super boring people. Like, I literally Googled, in response to this question, I Googled most boring video game character to see if we could pull off that wardrobe. And the number one answer was Aiden Pierce from Watch Dogs. Even his wardrobe, I would not be comfortable wearing. It's like that cool jacket that's got too many layers and angles to it. I couldn't do it.
What about like Ness from Earthbound? Just a shirt with some shorts.
So funny. That was exactly what I was thinking.
That's who I thought was the most boring.
I mean, that would be okay, but it would look like I was cosplaying an 8-year-old boy. You know, I'd have to have Big League Chew in my mouth. It'd be creepy. No one wants that.
My cheap answer would be Animal Crossing: New Horizons, because that's basically just t-shirts and shorts, and you can design them to be whatever you want. So there you go.
But what if it's original?
So your answer is just a complete cop out. It's just whatever's in your current
exactly.
wardrobe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but maybe the twist, maybe it has to be Animal Crossing villager from the first one. And not even villager, I'm sorry, but protagonist.
So you have to wear the hat with the horns.
You have to wear the obnoxious eco horns around as you're walking around the neighborhood with your kid and all that fun stuff.
Well, I mean, there's like 10,000 clothing options in Animal Crossing. So you could go as a mummy if you wanted to, you know.
All right, you can mix and match it, I suppose.
Yeah.
So you guys aren't going to get into any like Kingdom Hearts outfits is what you're
I
saying?
know. I was thinking like Cloud has like some cool, like a cool look to him.
You do love Cloud.
I do love, honest. Okay, now I'm thinking Final Fantasy. I mean, I think I could do Squall's clothes from Final Fantasy VIII. It's a little puffy, but I could wear that once a month. I feel like I could wear it in a certain situation.
I feel like
Please
you
do, Hanson.
Oh, okay, maybe I will.
Make that a Patreon goal.
Yeah. Ooh, or maybe on the Square front, for Spoken, the main character there, like in that latest trailer, she was just kind of wearing a plaid
She's wearing
shirt.
regular clothes.
Yeah, I'll take hers.
Just the sweater.
Yeah.
Anything set in modern day in just a normal, like, yeah, there's just regular clothes everywhere in video games right now. So I feel like it's easy to do a cop-out answer here. But I would go total over-the-top Final Fantasy or Pokemon Gym Leader or something like that. I think that's what you got to do.
Right.
Like, I assume you just get this outfit for free, right?
I think so.
That's, I think,
Part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to make it, but.
Yeah, I would go as like, Ultimecia. Like, I would just choose like the most outlandish Final Fantasy final boss, just like barely mortal. I think that's kind of my
Just go
default
as the
outfit.
house from.
Hell House as an outfit? Now we're talking.
Yeah, are you kidding?
I do feel like maybe it's just me. Jeff, I assume we're in the exact same camp, but I hate clothes. I can confidently say that. And like with the pandemic, I feel like it's been an excuse. I don't think I've bought new clothes in like 3 years, realistically.
Absolutely. I just had to buy a new pair of pants because my old ones were finally getting a hole in them. It's like a pair of jeans, and my wife finally got me to buy a new pair of jeans that look exactly like the old pair of jeans, and I'll wear them for another 10 years.
I can't identify with this at all.
Honestly,
You shouldn't.
Oh man, Splatoon.
Ooh,
That's
correct.
good.
I feel like we can
answer.
all agree on Splatoon, right?
Yes, absolutely.
We got some fun stuff.
Yep, and Jeffem can be the cat. Kyle Silva writes in and says, "Welcome back to the show, Kelsey. Kinsey Burke mentioned on Nasty Labs, these are words I'm not familiar with, that she saw you at PAX West this year. How was it? Did you get to try any games at the show? And how do you feel about the smaller size of the show?"
PAX was so interesting this year. I don't know why it happened, other than I think too much money had probably already been like put into it that would literally evaporate if they didn't do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only reason it happened. Basically, if you're not familiar, PAX West is a giant conference here out in Seattle, just big video game event. Basically, every publisher pulled out, every major company. So there was no Capcom, no Bethesda, no Ubisoft, no Nintendo, no Microsoft, no Sony. Bandai Namco was the star of the show there. That was the biggest booth.
Wow.
Other than that, it was all indies. And myself, I go with I run a store called Pink Gorilla Games here in Seattle, and so we have a booth there too. For us, it was incredible because people showed up and there was not a lot to do. So, and I think for the indies there too, it was also incredible because it's like you're not competing with Call of Duty or the new like hot games. So people have already paid for their ticket. They're already there. They just start playing indie games and exploring and probably doing some stuff that they don't normally get to do at a PAX because they have to wait in a 6-hour line to play the next Nintendo game.
Right. Did it feel like a ghost town? Did it still feel populated enough to the point that it was a little bit scary?
Really strange.
Yeah.
Because it's normally like, that is a huge convention center. It takes up every floor of the convention center. It spills out into the hotels across the street. That's the usual PAX. It's like 90,000 people attend or something like that. I don't think there's no way that it was even half of that this year. And it felt a little, I don't want to say ghost town because there were definitely still people there, but it was weird. It was like going in a time machine back to like 2005 when this event first started kind of thing.
Right. Oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. Yeah, that's so bizarre. Yeah, weird times. Chandler Miller writes in and says, "Hello, Kelsey. I love your podcast."
Thanks.
And they say, hello, MinnMax, I love your podcast too. That's fine. We can't compete with the Video Game History Hour. It's the most educational podcast out there. They say, you know how old video games are often kind of bad? I guess, yeah. Partly because they were limited by their technology, but also because people didn't know a lot about game design. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think if you sent a few modern video games back to the year 1980, it would dramatically change the video game timeline? Could we have dropped the idea of lives in games even sooner? I mean, I feel like we dropped that within the last 5 years, which is a godsend. Or maybe it's just Nintendo did.
Like Deathloop, you still have lives. You just don't call them lives.
I guess that's true. I do love this as just the weird thought experiment of forget sending modern video games, but like I'm very into the idea of sending designers back in time. Like if you sent designers back to 1980, what could they make that would just like lock it in as clearly this is the future? They're gonna just make a gigantic splash. Like, what do you think is the best design?
Even what would current Miyamoto tell like 25-year-old Miyamoto?
Try harder with Wii Music, I think would be number one suggestion. Yeah, I know that's a good question. I mean, do you think if Miyamoto could go back in time, he would say drop lives in Mario Brothers? I doubt it.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, but okay, I think maybe another example, maybe not to call Miyamoto stubborn, but maybe he's probably on the more stubborn end of the spectrum when it comes to designers. I think it's somebody like a Tim Schafer. Like go back and have him work on some of those original LucasArts adventure games, and like how smooth could he make those games? How many hints could they pack into those games? How many puzzles could they rearrange just to make it so much more approachable? But I was thinking about if you got a designer that went back in time, like what game could they technically have released back in the day that would change everything? You know, I remember when we talked about Loop Hero at the start of the year, it's like if they released a version of Loop Hero for the Apple II, they probably technically could have done something in that vein, and it could be one of just like the all-time greats now.
Yeah, so that's something I'm not clear on with this question. I mean, are you sending back this game like fully formed, and do they have the means to pick it apart and then like create the technology? But like it gets messy, right? Like maybe are we just showing them like gameplay footage and saying like this is what it will be, but like I don't you can't. I'm not giving you 64-bit technology or whatever.
Right. Maybe
it's like giving Ben Franklin a smartphone and being like, here you go, change history. And just be like, what is this magic?
No, maybe it's like, okay, what about this? What's that preview program that people use now? Where you
Parsec.
Yeah, maybe it's like Parsec. So they don't actually get their hands on, you know, the Terminator 2 style tech, you know, but instead it's just like, there's going to be a little bit of lag, but instead they get to experience the game and take lessons from it, but won't actually get the hardware.
I guess then maybe just, you know, this is like a weird assignment, but I guess if we had it, we'd probably want to list out what are we think some of the best like innovative concepts in games. Because then, you know, if you can't replicate the technology, maybe you still can do the concept. So, you know, something like fast travel. Like, I'm not sure what the first game, like I always wonder like what was the first game to like do X thing. Like I thought about that the other day with, like I tweeted out, what was the first game where you could like throw a rock or a bottle to distract an enemy? And like, I still don't really know. But something like that, but maybe less played out. Because also I don't want everyone doing, I don't know, there's always these game design waves where something becomes really normalized. And sometimes it's for really good reasons. And sometimes it just gets really played out. So
I'm thinking broader. I'm thinking like you show them that you can have like really deep stories even in 8-bit games. You know, like they're, at least on the NES, it took a while for there to be like, you had RPGs, right? Like you had plenty of RPGs, but they were pretty simple, and they've come a long way since then in terms of like narrative design. Even going back and showing like, beginnings of adventure games and visual novels and stuff were already there by this time. So it's hard to like really say this was brand new and, you know, no one would have ever seen this before, but maybe seeing some of those things where they're married a little bit more in the future and you send it back more. I don't know exactly where I'm going with this.
I think that's smart.
I think that's probably like the best answer of, because a lot of those early video games, they thought of them more explicitly as games. And I think probably the most valuable thing you could do is show them like, no, this can be like narrative entertainment. This can be storytelling. This can be people can empathize with these characters. Like, though that kind of shift early on would probably have a much bigger impact than saying like, okay, well here, like, hey, I made this huge sprawling open world game, and a designer 20 years ago is like, we have 100,000 bytes to work with. How?
Yeah.
Like, put that on a floppy disk. Like, I don't know, because so many of those games were limited by technology. It's not that the designers didn't have grandiose ideas of what they wanted to do with games. It was in terms of what they could actually do with that technology. But I bet that kind of shift of what video games could be would have a greater impact.
Even, showing something like an Undertale, where it's like technologically they could wrap their minds around it, but just the way that story is presented would be in a much more engaging way than they were going for back with Dragon Quest 1 and Final Fantasy 1 and all that stuff. Also, I think, not to be the simpleton here, but if you just screamed over and over again, easier, faster for the first 30 years of video games, I feel like just show them WarioWare and say, just more stuff like this, everybody. You can get highfalutin with your stories, but if you could just make this approachable and fast.
Yeah, but all that stuff was by design because they only have so much they can work with. So you have to make it hard because otherwise you beat the game in 30 minutes and you're like, why did I spend $60? Which, because it's 1980, that's actually $110 or whatever on this.
Well, that's why.
Or it was arcades and you only wanted to play for 5 minutes.
Right. Well, that's why you do the ultimate twisteroo on this question, where you go back in time and you show them Rogue. And you say, hey, that game that's already out right over there, just do more of that, but in a smarter way, because that's going to be the future for really prolonging your game sessions. Trust us. People won't return your game if it's a good version of that. Good question, Chandler. Taylor C. writes in and says, I enjoy creating a character, but too many options make it feel overwhelming. What is your favorite part of a character creator screen? And what is your least favorite? Tough.
I like the hair. I don't know why, but doing like a weird color and weird hairstyle is always a fun part of a character creator to me. And I don't have... Do you guys have like a color that you settle on for your character's hair and stuff? Do you do anything weird like that? Like, I usually have pink hair, but...
Ooh, that's good. I'm usually black or gray. Real creative stuff.
Boring.
Yeah. Gray's funky. I like gray in like a younger character.
Plain shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I usually try to go with like whatever my hair color is, but then I'll look at what the dyed options are, because I've always wanted to dye my hair and one day hope to eventually get around doing that. So I'll look for like, okay, well, maybe I can put like a streak in it, or what are the other color options? So like in Sunset Overdrive or something, like I don't have my completely natural hair color, but I have like what I would want to have if I didn't have to put the money and time and care into doing it in real life.
Yeah, I think hair's good because it's not going to hit you with that uncanny valley, unlike every other adjustment you make in a character creator, where it's like, my least favorite's always just like the small jawline thing, or it's always like the eyes, how far away the eyes are. I'm like, at a certain point, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I'm not going to be able to fine tune this to like, oh, perfect.
We're not creative enough or artistic enough in most cases.
No.
And you really just slide it one way, all the other way, and it's like, oh, that looks freaky. Then all the way back, and it's like, that looks freaky. And then you just put it back in the middle where it was to begin with.
Yep.
My answer was also hair, because I think that just has the biggest impact without me having to mess with all of those little things.
Right.
It's like you can completely change the look of your character by just like flipping through 5 things and then being like, oh, that one looks the most natural, unless it's a Bethesda game, and then you just go bald, I guess.
Correct.
Although I do think that even though I don't like actually having to mess with the, jaw slider and all of that stuff, my favorite part of a character creator is the first thing I do is just make something as hideous as possible and then laugh, and then I go back to normal.
Yep.
Yeah.
By the way,
you have to test the limits of it. Like, how stupid can I make myself look? All right, now let's do this for real.
Yeah, that's a very good video game specific thing that in retrospect we probably should have named MinnMax. It's Jawslider. Jawslider.com. People know what you're talking about. Anyways, let's see. Jordan Blaney writes in and says, hello, MinnMax. Kenna Bridge of Spirits comes out next Tuesday. God, I keep forgetting about that. That's right there. Which also happens to be on my birthday. Congratulations, Jordan. It's got me thinking if I could remember any other big game releases on my birthday, and this was the first. Does the MinnMax crew have any memorable game releases on or near your birthday?
So I had to go to Moby Games for this. Yeah, I had to go to Moby Games for this and just like go through, my birthday week over the past 30 years or whatever. But one of them jogged my memory, which is that Pokemon Snap came out like the day before my birthday, the original one. And I got that game for my birthday. I didn't know that it had come out the day before because I was really too young at that point to be like poring over magazines and being like, when's the next release date? But yeah, that was like a really big one for me. I got my Nintendo 64 and Pokemon Snap like the day after that came out.
That's impressive. Either your parents were scrambling like the day before, or they were that in the know where they knew that, all right, put a pin on the calendar. This is when we can actually buy Pokemon Snap.
I thought that too. Yeah. I mean, was it out at Blockbuster before it came out for real though?
Oh, I don't know.
Because I'm trying to think of how they would have known that other than just I was a big Pokemon fan.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good one. Not even that good. Mine's in April. So it's like Resident Evil month, I guess. But I do remember it was very sweet that I remember the Final Fantasy VII remake, the first episode of the Deepest Dive that we did, it was uploaded on my birthday. And I thought like, oh, this is a good day. Like this huge thing about this game that I care a lot about with like a bunch of old friends is going up on my birthday. That was enough for me. Doreen Claire writes in and says, hi, Kelsey.
Hi.
What's your favorite little factoid from video game history? Bonus points if it's totally useless trivia. Good God.
I wanted to come up with a super good one for this and was struggling because I probably have 100 really funny ones, but instead I'm going to leave you with one that I'm still working on verifying, but it's going to be really funny if it's true. So I was interviewing this guy, his name's Andy Swanson. He worked at Nintendo of America and at Pokemon for a while. And he worked on the e-reader here at Nintendo, the little e-reader device, the little cards you would slide and everything. He says that each one of those e-reader cards was its own submission, as a game at Nintendo. And so technically speaking, the person who has launched the most video games at Nintendo is this random guy, Andy Swanson, with like over 400 e-reader cards.
That is perfect. That is exactly what we're looking for.
I'm working on like actually verifying this because I was like, man, yeah, could anyone possibly beat that? Like even with just the... Miyamoto's like a producer on literally everything, right? But I'm like, but over 400 games? Like, I don't know. I think it's close.
I think that's going to be close because you count like all the Mario spinoffs. I mean, yeah, his name has to be on everything. Ooh,
it's a lot, but think about, how many Nintendo games come out a year? Like, it's, I don't know.
Compared to just a deck of cards being thrown at the screen. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
That's tough. God, there's an episode of the Video Game History Hour recently where you were talking about Banjo-Kazooie. I don't know if I should explain it, but like a promotional thing for Banjo-Kazooie. Do you want to explain how this worked and what it was?
Okay, that's funny because that was one of my backup ones for this. I was like, if I can't think of anything else, this will be a stupid one that'll make people laugh. So there was a contest, just a little promotional thing, especially back in those days before Twitter and all of that. Like these PR people had such incredible budgets to do the absolute dumbest stunts with. And so the PR people working on Banjo-Kazooie, and I think this was on the Nintendo side, not like the Rare side or anything, they took a bunch of kids to a honey factory and they filled like this vat, like this kind of swimming pool thing with a honey water solution, like this sticky, gross, like, and you would go diving in this for copies of the game and other merch, which of course, it's like in a plastic bag so it doesn't get wet, but like there's so many levels of why to this. And you would feel, I'm sure the kids just felt so gross and like they got to get in the car after that. Like what?
I'm trying to imagine, like, did they originally plan on like, oh, wouldn't it be fun to have like a big vat of honey they have to dive into? But then it's like, oh, that's way too expensive. Let's water it down. So it's like this weird water.
You could swim in honey.
No, I think you would die.
Wow. Is that right?
Also, hearing this, it sounds like when we're coming up with New Show Plus ideas and we start with like the dumbest thing we can come up with.
Yeah, and then we get down to
the fact that Ben hasn't pitched this to us yet blows my mind.
Look, I
think you should do it.
I think so. Yeah, save it for like the dead of winter in Minnesota, though. Just like outdoor honey water pit that we got to go bobbing for games in. This is good. Oh, are there photos or anything of this gross honey pit?
There was a photo in the press release they sent out. hand. I wish I had it on me. I'll see if I can grab it for you.
Okay, that would be
maybe you can
awesome.
tweet it out or something like that.
It can be the thumbnail for this episode of the podcast on YouTube. Let's see. Ramses Garcia says, seeing how many headlines got the Epic versus Apple ruling wrong because they rushed, should writers wait longer before posting stories? Some of the things they got wrong are apps can't have other payments inside the app. They can restrict and force apps to use Apple's system in the app. Apple is still owed a cut when apps link out. They found Apple's contracts reasonable and enforceable. The rush to publish a story really hurt reporting and public perception. Jeff, were you following this closer? Like, I know this lawsuit came to an end, and it was kind of like one side was like, Apple won, then Epic kind of won after all. Did you follow this thing?
Yeah, I may not have seen it right away. I only saw the headlines that were like, Epic won. But then also Epic was appealing some things. And I was like, what?
It seems like Apple largely I'm so sorry for being stupid on this front. We need like Shannon Lau on this podcast or something.
Well, that was going to be my interjection here was just, I don't think it's a rush thing. I think it's that you need like legal experts to, I don't think it's expected that most game journalists are also legal experts. And like that should probably be, someone should maybe consult on that a little bit, maybe.
I was going to mention that too. Like, I think it's just an unfortunate circumstance of, and I do think I wasn't like looking at every story that came out, so I'm not really sure what stories like this question has in mind or what outlets. But when I was looking back at the story of the weekend, I sort of tried to find like a place where I felt like it was concise and well put together and everything, and I ended up leaning on Rebecca Valentine's reporting at IGN. Again, I don't know if that was all perfect out the gate or whatever. I don't even know for a fact that it's completely perfect now, but it seemed like it had the accuracy in terms of really breaking down, okay, this is what was said and this is what it means, and I thought she did a good job contextualizing it. But yeah, to Kelsey's point, I think it's just really hard to do that kind of stuff because you're not people that are games journalists, like they're an expert in gaming and like maybe they are really knowledgeable on like, you know, the publishers and the developers and like those elements of the business or something. But like, you know, in GameIndustry.biz, of course, is like great at like the business side of those things and those niches. But it reminds me of like when the GameStop Wall Street stuff was going on, everyone I knew was like, I don't know anything about stocks. Like that ain't my job. Like I'm here to talk about, you know, the Boom 2 out now, you know, here's the trailer. Like, and that's not to discount the field, but like, it does really get challenging when these other like fields intersect with it. So I feel like it's more just people struggling to wrap their head around it. And I struggle with that too. And even when I'm reading stuff, that's why I lean so heavy on the people that are doing all that work of sifting through it. So I can kind of be like, this is what it is, I think.
Yeah. I know Shannon Lau over at Washington Post has done a great job.
And I think another good example of this is like, you ever see how sometimes those non-gaming sites try to write an article about gaming and they're like really, really embarrassing and terrible?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's just what you run into when you try to cross over into a sector that is not your expertise.
Yeah, totally. This is my dad sent me the AARP magazine, which back at Game Informer was always the bane of our existence because we were always like the fourth biggest magazine in the world, and the 1 and 2 slots were both AARP. It's like, damn you. But anyways, my dad sent me this AARP magazine because he's like, oh, there's an article about video games in here I thought you'd get a kick out of. And it was bizarre to read like the AARP's take on. It was just like their cover story was like, here's video games. And it was bizarre because it was written from a perspective of like, it's kind of like a movie you can interact with. Like it felt like an article from 1990 if you're being generous. It was just surreal. And they had like quotes from Sid Meier and Will Wright. Like they got like these Hall of Famers to come in and explain just literally interactivity is pretty fun. Was like a quote from like Sid Meier. It's like, what are you doing? You have these geniuses and you're just like, I was talking to my dad about it. It's like, this is like if 10 years ago you had an article explaining what movies were and you got Steven Spielberg to come in and be like, the film goes in the camera. It's like, yeah, we got that. We got that far. We don't need this genius to give this quote. But very weird. Let's see. Shazira is very smart in the chat. She was saying that Apple won most of the big stuff. Epic won one finding of fact that's being reported on. There's going to be an appeal from Epic. Wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't. Okay, a lot of stuff. It's very complex. Let's see. White Mex, just to bring things down for a second, it says, hey there, Emmy Award nominee Ben Hansen. Oh, thank you. I promise I didn't include this one just for this reference. But MinnMax's documentary on the Oregon Trail was nominated for a regional Emmy. here in the Midwest.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, thank you.
Extremely well deserved. That's great. If you haven't watched it yet, I implore you to. It's very good.
That's very nice. Yeah, you can find it. Just go on YouTube.
I will take my payment now, Ben.
Yep, absolutely. Just look for the Oregon Trail MinnMax. You can find that documentary. Yes, Jeff.
Henson, you had mentioned that in the Slack that it got nominated, and I was amazed by that news. And so I went and Googled it, and then found that you had already won an Emmy.
Yeah, that's true.
You've won an Emmy?
Yeah. Back when I was I was nominated for a couple before, and then I won one before Game 4. Yeah, I forget. No, yeah. So I won. Trust me, this would not seem impressive if you saw the video I won for. It was a video on school recycling that I did back in 2010 before I started at Game Informer, and somehow that won an Emmy. But hey, MinnMax is nominated now, Jeffem, and it's very fun to see the name MinnMax on this thing. So I guess I'll be going to that regional Emmy thing and rooting for MinnMax there.
You should heckle from the crowd the entire time.
Just chanting Roche from the crowd the entire time. All right, we'll see how it goes. But thanks everybody for supporting us at MinnMax and letting us do cool stuff like make documentaries like the Oregon Trail documentary. White Mex says, oh boy, this is a 180. Hey, with the passing of Norm Macdonald being announced, I was wondering if you have a favorite bit of his you'd like to share. P.S. F cancer. Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, Norm Macdonald, controversy is noted throughout his career. But Jeff, I just assume you're a fan of Norm Macdonald as well.
I always liked him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I don't have a favorite one because I think most of them he was usually pretty offensive in. Like those are the ones I remember. So
okay. Yeah.
Can't really point to anything.
Go back to some of that Weekend Update stuff.
And he has a lot of like really long ones that I don't want to try to recite here. Like that's some of what I remember him for is like those just rambling 5-minute jokes that end in a good punchline, but I'm not going to try to recite any of those.
No, it's such a specific delivery that you couldn't possibly go through. I think I've tried to pull off a couple of those jokes like with my parents or something, and it's just blank stares because it turns out you're not Norm Macdonald, you don't have that delivery. But this is not even a joke, but I remember this bit. And then they just republished his old WTF interview, and it was in there again. And so I listened to it again today. But he tells the story, and it's kind of like the Norm Macdonald origin story, where he says that when he was a kid up in Canada, his dad had a friend that was blind, and he had to help his dad's friend go to the store. And he said his dad's friend, and Norm Macdonald as a kid was also just super uncomfortable and anxious and awkward and all that good stuff. And he said that his dad's friend, when he was walking to the store, just kept asking him to describe what he was seeing. So he'd be like, what are you looking at now? And Norm, as a little kid, would be like, it's just a lamppost. He's like, okay, what does that look like? And he would describe it. And Norm Macdonald describes it like it was this epiphany where he then could not stop laughing at just the basic idea of everything in the world. Because when you break things down and have to explain things on a basic level, it turns out everything is slightly funny. And I think that carried through like Norm's entire career of him just setting things up and describing things in a way that are so obvious and simple, but just with that tone, you realize that almost everything in the world is a little bit funny. So yeah, sad to see him go. Hey, Travis Brinkley says, hey, MinnMax, I was thinking of a question to submit, but I've been waiting for 4 hours for a tow truck to take my car to get a new tire. So my question is, can you fix a flat tire? You don't have to fix mine. Thanks, Travis.
No. Hell no. Not even close.
It's tough.
There was a time where I could. When I lived in Texas, I lived in an area that was just perpetually under construction. And so I learned to fix a flat tire because I think I had like 4 a year, which is way too many.
What?
Yeah, it just keep running over nails and stuff. It's terrible.
What are you, twisted metal? What's happening over there?
Yeah. I haven't had to do that since I was in high school. So no, I think I would have to pull up a YouTube video.
Yeah. I mean, my dad taught me to do it over and over and over again. And I do think if I got a flat tire now, I think I'd be too scared to do it. And I'm not too proud to admit that. Jeff, you seem like you could do it with your eyes closed.
Yeah. Well, one of my get a load of this is a long time ago was that little portable tire inflator that you can just plug into your cigarette lighter thing, which no one uses anymore. So it's not really fixing it, but you can fill it back up and get it, off the road. And then if my car was parked in the driveway, I feel like I could get it up on a jack and get the tire off and get a donut on there. to then drive it to someone who's, competent.
Look at that. Way to go. Chris Becker writes in and says, Janet and gang. Oh, that's a new way of framing it. You're welcome to frame it that way. How's it going? Good. Thank you, Chris. I certainly hope everyone is getting ready for February with it now suddenly becoming overly crowded. That's neither here nor there. A lot of setup here. My question is this. What's been the cheapest game to become game of the year? I'm talking the year it came out. Any $10 or less games still your top spot, I think is what they means to write, for game of the year. Cheapest game to become game of the year is the core of the question.
Like our personal game of the year, right?
Or just, maybe a universal or outlet game of the year contender.
Maybe Fortnite, if that ever won from anything.
I think you're totally right. That's the one that's really tough to beat. I think Fortnite is the correct one. But even like Hades is what?
But it's not $10. Like, I'm like, oh, you go on cheap. Because sometimes people, this is like a really random bitter thing, but like sometimes on social media, some people will be like, oh, like cheap game recommendations, but the games are still like $30 or $40. I'm like, that ain't really like that cheap. It's like a light sale. Like, calm down. So yeah, like under $10. I feel like that's not a lot of games.
Yeah, there's just not really that classic game. Oh, maybe like Monument Valley. That could have been somebody's game of the year, possibly. All right, I'm getting a lot of heads to the side.
Undertale was like $10 or $20. Is that right?
Maybe. Yeah, Stardew Valley was $15.
I bought it when it was like $10.
Yeah, I think Stardew Valley was $15 for a long time. I don't know what it's at now, but that's certainly game of the year.
If you want to go back further, I mean, because games weren't cheap for a very long time, but the one I thought of first before you guys started having much more brilliant answers was like Katamari, which was a $20 game at launch.
Ooh.
It was very cheap for a PS2 game.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's a great choice for sure. Let's see.
How much was Disco Elysium when it came out?
It was like a full price. I feel like at least 40. I feel like, but I don't know.
Yeah, let's see.
Especially when it came out, like I can only really look up what it is now.
Yeah, it's 40 now for the final cut, so probably not too far off that.
Celeste is, I think, like around that $20. Again, $10 is really hard, but I think Celeste is like 20.
Yeah,
that was a really strong one.
God's Garage Backstage Pass brings up that like with Game Pass, you could get Psychonauts 2 for $1 right now, which is true.
But, bro, Psychonauts 2 ain't gonna be up there regardless of how much it costs. To be honest.
Oh, hang on, is there a hot take?
Yeah, they're like, oh, it feels like an older game now. I'm like, yeah, that's not the comment you may think it is.
This is interesting.
That's just my personal taste.
No, I love it.
A Short Hike, I really love, and that's an $8 game.
All right,
that game's really damn good.
It is good.
Yeah,
awesome
that game
choice.
is great.
Let's see. VRG writes in and asks, "Do you enjoy cooking? If so, what are your favorite recipes?" Jeff, I feel like you've talked about cooking a lot, but have you got any new recipes?
Chili.
Ooh,
it's a hard one to screw up, and then you have food for like a week after you make it.
A good staple.
Yeah, that is good. Just freeze it.
And it's healthy.
To go. Is it?
I think it can be.
It's mostly vegetables. I usually don't actually
I'm putting so much ground beef in there.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess it depends on how much beef you put in, but it's still very good if you don't put in beef.
Okay.
I won't fault anyone for putting in beef.
All right.
Yeah, I've never really liked chili. It just tastes like, because I didn't grow up eating it, so I think that's why it's like this doesn't hit for me. It just tastes like a weird ground beef soup. Maybe I should try the vegetable one. Maybe that would taste better. It tastes like a weird soup, like a soup that doesn't have any liquid. It's like just damp. Why is the food
That's the
damp?
worst description of chili I've ever heard in my life. If you describe anything that way,
wrong?
it sucks.
Like,
yes, it's wrong.
It's weird because it does taste good.
Yeah.
You make it well and it'll taste good, but I'm like, it just tastes wrong. Like something's not. I'm not good with it. I can't do it.
It's a texture thing for you. Like, do you need it in like a solid patty? Like,
I don't know what it is. I'm the only one with the problem because in my apartment, like we've made chili a couple times, and everyone else is like, yeah, this could. We take turns cooking. You know, I live in kind of a more non-conventional setup than I think some people, because usually you're either with like maybe some roommates your age or like you have your own family. I have like a weird combo of like, I live with my brother, his fiance, my dad, and my boyfriend. So it's like this weird modern family vibe. And we all take turns cooking, except my boyfriend does his own thing because he just doesn't like to eat the foods that we like to eat. And I'm like, that's fine.
What? No, that's not fine.
Yeah,
that's
it's
not
a whole
fine.
thing.
That's weird.
There's so many things going on. I don't know. He don't listen to the show. It's fine. So it's like me, my brother, and his fiance that we take turns cooking. We can just let my dad chill. He's old already. He's like in his like 50s, 60s. I'm like, I feel like just let him live. Like, it's okay. Like, he'll chip in for the groceries and he don't gotta do work. But like, we take turns doing stuff, and like, I was the only one that had a chili issue. Everyone else was like, this could stay in the rotation. I'm like, I'll be honest. I can't do it. I don't like this chili, but I don't really like cooking because it's like an annoying chore for me, which is like, I only cook 2 days a week because we split it up.
Okay.
But my favorite thing to cook probably, and the thing that I think I make best, is one pot bacon, broccoli, mac and cheese. It's from this site called Budget Bites, which, if you're not familiar, it's a great site. And like, one beef I had for a long time with cooking, Kelsey, I know you're kind of similar because we like barely started cooking in the last couple of years, but for so long, I'm like, it's so much work and it costs so much money. I'm like, I feel like I can just get a $5 sandwich and just eat garbage and and live. And I did that for a long time. And Budget Bites was places where I'm like, okay, this is like a good tasting meal that's actually affordable, where I really do feel like I am actually saving money cooking at home. And it's a pretty simple recipe. And I like a lot of recipes from there. It's where I get a lot of my stuff. So Budget Bites, it's a free site. They have an app that you can also pay for, but that recipe's always dope. And we always like eat all of it. It's great.
I cook breakfast every morning. That's like the one meal that I'm like, I just have a commitment to. So I usually do like either breakfast tacos or like a scramble, usually some veggies and sausage and stuff. But the trick is like, you just cut all that stuff up at the beginning of the week. And then you can just kind of dump it in the pan and cook it, and then cook the eggs with it too. I mean, it's not difficult. I don't know. I don't hate cooking, but I'm kind of with Janet where it's like, it's a lot of work for not so much return, because you can go to a restaurant and spend not that much more money and have someone do it all for you. So I enjoy it if it's like a social thing, or if I'm cooking someone's favorite meal for someone, and I don't mind making breakfast, but it's something I've struggled to make, like, cooking 2 or 3 meals a day is just not going to happen for me. 2 sometimes, but not 3.
It's a lot. By the way, what is your history, Janet and Kelsey? Janet, you mentioned listening to Kelsey's podcast and stuff. Are you got 2 Twitter buddies? What's the history here?
I think we're now real friends.
What?
Like, I think we are friends. Yes, we have crossed the threshold.
Congratulations.
The abridged version is
wedding.
Yeah, like, I'm friends with Kelsey. Like, I know, like, I was like, oh, Kelsey's here. And this is our first time making content, which has been really fun. Like, I first learned that Kelsey existed through her podcast. And we just kind of became like Twitter mutuals, like, from having just talked about games. And then I met her for the first time at a convention where it was like, and it was funny because I don't know if I even told you this story, Kelsey, from like my perspective, but when I knew that we were going to meet and you were like, oh yeah, like, come by the booth and stuff, I was like, well, I think Kelsey's really cool and stuff, but like, I want to make sure I'm not being, creepy, because like, I know Kelsey more from her content and I don't want to be like a problematic fan or something and like be weird. So it's like, okay, we're going to be, and my brother also kind of knew Kelsey the same way. I'm like, okay, we're going to be low key and say hi. And then right away, Kelsey's like, walked up to me, gave me a hug. I was like, oh, like, everyone's a lot more friendly than I was like really worried that I didn't want to come off like being too much and stuff. But and yeah, we've exchanged contacts and have been fairly close ever since, and just kind of talk the way any other friends do, basically. I think that's a weird way to phrase it. That's my it sounds like I'm a robot, but that's my abridged version of me and Kelsey's history.
I sign off on it. It sounds accurate to me.
Wow, that's awesome.
The historian approved it, so boom, there you go.
That is the official history. Showing that.
Decreed. All right, what do y'all like for question of the week? I kind of like that one about how you 2 are friends, but I think that was me. Let's see. I like the history tidbit because I feel like that's playing into Kelsey's strength. I like the outfit one because people don't really ask about that stuff too much.
I like the outfit one.
Yeah? Do you think that's your number 1, Kelsey?
Well, what are your other ones?
Okay, let's see. I like the old video game time travel thought experiment, character creator screen. It's between those.
Okay, I think I'm between the time travel and the outfit one, if anyone's got a tiebreaker here.
Janet Jeffem?
the outfit one because it had more concrete answers.
Yes.
And also we got to kind of grill each other on each other's answers. Which I think
Okay,
is fun.
there we go. Congratulations, Kris Prohaska. You win the Cuphead CD from I Am 8-Bit, but everybody else can still get it by going to I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store. But congratulations, thanks for submitting great questions over at Patreon, everybody. Now it's time for something we like to call Get a Load of This. Okay, Jeff, you gotta show everybody how it's done. You just have to lean into it and give us the best Get a Load of This you've ever given.
Oh, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
Get a load of this. This one is, well, this one's actually kind of a bummer. So I'm already blowing your man. But it's a PC gamer article that's called Please Enjoy Discord While It's Still Good. And it's basically about how it's specifically about Discord, but then more generally about how, software and platforms kind of have an arc to them where they start off really good and they have a ton of features in them. And then eventually the creators have to figure out a way to actually make money from them.
Right.
And they either start putting stuff behind paywalls or they start cutting features and stuff. And it's a really good write-up of how the author and their friends have kind of used Discord as a way to hang out together and how, all the different kind of features that Discord facilitates for that. And it made me think of all of the great times that we get to have that are facilitated by Discord and how we should probably be enjoying them now before, someone comes along and buys Discord and then makes everything behind a membership paywall or things like that.
And shatters the trivia tower structure and possibility that we've kind of crammed into Discord now. Yeah. Let us use it for our game shows.
Discord was too good to be true. Like the fact that it's all of this and there's really, well, I guess it's one of those things. I forget who had this quote, but it's something like, if you aren't paying, you are the thing they're selling or something like that.
Line too. You're the product or something like that.
Yeah. Someone else can quote it for real, but but that's the sentiment. And yeah, so it makes me wonder like what's happening. And also, I don't know. It's a lot of really nice features that we don't pay for.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, get a load of this. Bruce Straley, who left Naughty Dog years ago, he's the director on Uncharted 2, Last of Us, Uncharted 4. He had a tweet where he says, packing to move and found a sketchbook with The Last of Us brainstorms. Trying to figure out how to make setups and layouts with everyday found objects were interesting. Dumpsters and ladders. Minnie made it in. And I see the birth of Bill's Trap in here. And now do I pack them or trash them? So this is just a series of tweets where it's just like super crude sketches from The Last of Us, where it's like literally basic ideas of, wheeling the big cart underneath the ladder or like going up here and dropping a ladder down, like the basic, maybe repeated too many things in Last of Us in there, just like the basic level of design of how Joel and Ellie are interacting. You get to see these stick figure versions of it if you follow the link below for Bruce Straley's tweet. And Kelsey, as a historian here, do you prefer that he packs them or trashes them?
I prefer that he donates them to the Video Game History Foundation archive if he does not feel like packing them. He's more than welcome to keep them if they bring him joy, but if he doesn't want to, I'm sure historians of the future and probably present would really love to see that stuff.
Yeah. Do you hear that, Bruce? Do what's right. Kelsey, do you have one?
I sure do. Get a load of this. The National Video Game Museum in the UK just launched something they'd been working on for a while, which is the Animal Crossing Diaries project, which is something I was really excited about them doing because Animal Crossing New Horizons was such a moment in time that will never be replicated. Like if you play that game now, and Janet, I know you're still playing it sometimes, it is not what it was in March. Like that is a completely different game, different experience. And so they have, for the last year or so, been collecting people's stories and experiences and screenshots and videos and just all kinds of different ways that they interacted with Animal Crossing. And you can browse them in nice ways. Like you can search for specific ones and through different categories, but they also just have a random button, which is my favorite. So I spent an hour this morning just hitting random over and over again and reading people's things. And sometimes they're these long, beautifully constructed essays about what Animal Crossing meant to them in these horrible times. And sometimes it's just I had a date with my girlfriend and here's a picture. It's great.
That's great.
Oh, that's awesome. There's a link below for all this stuff. Janet, you have something?
Yeah, get a load of this. There is a Twitter account that came out earlier this month called Frasier Looking at Video Games. The handle is at Frasier_looking. Currently sitting at 25K followers, made by someone named Eagle McGill. Or Bobby is their actual name, according to Twitter. But it's what it sounds like. It's Frasier, he's at the, sort of, if you know that apartment layout, it has those big window door type things. And he's looking out into the world, and they just change it with different video game worlds or scene from games. Like they very timely had Frasier looking out at Blackreef because Deathloop came out. They also have looking out at Among Us and people flying out of a ship, and you can submit to the account things you want Frasier to look at. They had Frasier looking at Wario, for WarioWare drop in, just a bunch of different stuff, and it's just so funny and random and silly, and I enjoy weird crossovers like this. I'm looking at the showcase, the PlayStation showcase, and just the promotional image. Also, Frasier, underrated show. I myself need to go back and really give it a full watch because pretty good.
I feel like this is what we should have sent back to 1980. Because they'd be like, is that the guy from Cheers looking at some new version of a video game I couldn't possibly comprehend? Yeah, it really bent some minds. Jeff, did you get one from the community, from the Get a Load of This channel?
Yeah, get a load of this. This is also a bummer, but it's history related as well. So this one was from Mike Lynch, and it's a CNN article that they actually didn't do too bad of a job, even though it's not specialist reporting. But it's the massive Museum of Pinball is closing. And they are putting up all 1,700 pinball machines for auction.
What?
I think the auction's over already.
Maybe.
Is it not? It's been happening for several days.
Yeah,
so I figured it was over, but maybe it's not.
I think they said they've auctioned off 750 so far, and that there's some more that's going to be auctioned later in the month. But it's a nice and kind of sad write-up of kind of their attempts to save it and kind of all the costs associated with it and the history behind it and stuff. And
yeah.
Worth a read.
Oh, that's interesting. Cool. You can check out the links below, everybody. Hey, Kelsey, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Had a good time.
Yeah, what would you like to plug? If you could point people one direction, where should they go?
Well, it sounds like some of you guys already enjoy my podcast. I'll just plug that again. You can go listen to the Video Game History Hour podcast. It's on all of the same places you're probably listening to the MinnMax podcast. So
that's true.
Check it out and check out the Video Game History Foundation.
Yeah, genuinely the most educational video game podcast out there. Every episode you learn so much. If you like deep dives, I promise I'm not just trying to kiss your ass here, Kelsey. Your recent episode, which I felt like it was framed as, this is a boring bonus-ish thing. But it was you and Frank Cifaldi talking about doing that Konami dig of going to that guy's house who was a producer for Konami for the early 90s and kind of going through his basement of stuff. That was so fascinating, just about hey, here's what it's like when somebody is getting old and their basement's filled with video game stuff and they don't know what to do with it and they think it may be worth something, and then you two actually getting to uncover all this old awesome Konami stuff. There was an official Konami company song that the president...
There was.
It's so
absurd.
There's
an official Konami ballad that the president of Konami, the then president of Konami, commissioned, and it's very lame. But there is both a version with lyrics and a karaoke version that we ripped while we were down there. We are going back to scan all of that stuff, so hopefully we'll have some cool stuff to share soon.
Cool. But yeah, check it out. Video Game History Hour on your favorite podcast app, everybody. All right, Janet, you got something you want to plug too?
Check out my social media. It's at Gameonesis. And also, I was nominated for 2 categories in the GameHers Award, which you can check out that site or account on Twitter for Rising Star Streamer and then Content Creation Top Journalist. So I would appreciate if y'all would go and vote for me there. You just have to put in your email address. They will never email you. I will say you have to there's a lot of nominees. So you do have to kind of dig for it. It's just the handle Gameonesis. They used everyone's just handles. And it's alphabetical. But yes, I'm there, and that's pretty cool. So if you like my content, go ahead and vote. And if you don't, do it anyway, because I don't care either way. The vote still counts.
That works. There's a link in the description if you want to follow it there for everything. Jeff, have you enjoyed your computer so far? Do you want to plug PC gaming or anything?
Yeah,
Plug
sure.
it in.
Try it out. These PC games are pretty sweet.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching or listening to this episode of the MinnMax Show. If you're watching it, you can always subscribe on your favorite podcast app. If you're listening to it, you can always watch it on YouTube and give us a subscribe over there. We'd appreciate it. Otherwise, just give us a follow on Instagram and win a Fixture S1 for yourself. And thank you, everybody, at the Thank You Crew tier, the $50 tier over on Patreon. That is Fixture Gaming, Fatal X Blade on YouTube, I Am 8-Bit, Ludwig Roque, Zachary Pligge, Andrew Uerkwitz, Andrew Vala, BeatenDownBrian, PrettyGoodPrinting.com, Mirko Arico-Torreno, Jawarhello, Mark Seliga, Best of the Rest Podcast, John Higby, Call Me By Your Game Podcast, Clint Farley, Drew Waranis, Dan Villone, Ted Ryser, Steve Bamdad, Purebred Number 6, Clemens Zobel, Starkiller, Kris, SpiderDan, SpiralInYourEyes, Preetham Yarlagadda, and Tomas. Thank you so much, everybody. Be good, have fun, let's go.